You. Let's go on the record. I'm going to take my phone out and silence it. Take that as a huge hint. This is a caucus of the Jersey City Municipal Council. Today is Monday, May 21st in the year 2018. We had a 5:30 p.m. start. It's 5:40 p.m. Present at roll call, Councilperson Ridley. Prinzeri.
Here.
Baggiano.
Here.
Yun.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Robinson. Rivera.
Here.
Waterman.
Here.
Lavaro.
Here.
Okay, it's not often we have our mayor in our midst.
Before I turn the floor over, I just want to say welcome to everybody who's here tonight. Thank you all for being here. And for those of you who are here for the first time, know that this is a public meeting, but public speaking is not permitted during this meeting, nor are public outbursts or any sort of any other interactions. This is a meeting of the City Council and the caucus of the council where we discuss the business that's on the agenda for the City Council. With that being said, we have the privilege of having Mayor Fulop here tonight to discuss some business before the city. And he's here with his team to talk about the Bayfront redevelopment area. Mayor?
Is there something on our agenda, or?
It is not on the
That
agenda.
is why I couldn't find it.
I mean, there's a lot on the agenda to go over, which is great, but this is really particularly important, and I wanted to come here personally with some of the individuals who have worked on this to talk to you a little bit about what we're thinking and get some direction from you all with regards to this project. What we collectively decide is going to have an impact not only in this term, probably for the next 20 years in a meaningful way. And we wanted to lay out for you a couple different scenarios that the city could pursue based on the direction that you ultimately give us. I think you recognize that Bayfront represents a really unique opportunity for the city in that there's probably nowhere else in the New York metro region that there's hundreds of acres of undeveloped clean land in close proximity to New York City. And we have a lot to thank for the community for their work over the last couple decades in bringing litigation, previous administrations as well, making sure that that land gets cleaned up properly. About 10 years ago plus, the city entered into pursued a redevelopment agreement along with Honeywell, to which we're the minority partner, which we'll speak about as well, to outline a proposed redevelopment plan for that area, to really reshape it into what we think the west side of Jersey City can ultimately be. Over the last 10 years, I think you all recognize that the city has changed pretty significantly as well, and that has prompted us to work with also the community and with you about different options in order to increase particularly the affordable housing at Bayfront. The goal was to create a community that provides for everybody in Jersey City. And that's not without obstacles because previous administrations have taken dollars up front, so Jersey City owes Honeywell, in addition to being the minority developer, we also do owe them in the range of $40 million once the property is sold, and we'll walk through that as well. And that obligation obviously really hinders and is an obstacle to what we're capable of doing there from an affordability standpoint because we're the minority partner and we're the minority partner that has a big obligation to Honeywell. That said, Honeywell has been a good partner and very cooperative and willing to work with us to pursue different options in order to increase affordability around there. So what we've done over the last couple weeks and months is to outline 3 different plans on what we can do at Honeywell. There is one that is consistent with what we have today, where there's one that's somewhat in the middle, where we have limited control, but it's in the middle, and there's one that's very aggressive and very ambitious, but it yields the most for the city by far. And that's a decision that we have to collectively make, and so we thought it would be appropriate at this stage to come and present to you the different possibilities and the numbers here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Diana Jeffries and Joe Bauman, and we'll start with the presentations. Do they have copies of it yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So while we're handing that out, let me maybe sort of set the stage on how the mayor directed the
Introduce yourself to
I'm
the
sorry.
public.
Joseph Bauman, Chairman McManaman, Scotland and Bauman, Special Counsel to the agency and the city on redevelopment matters. I was joined in this effort by NW Financial. Dennis Enright, one of the principals, is here today as well to answer questions and help help inform you on the process we went through and where we are today, and the fruits of the last several months' labor by the professional team. So I think it's probably, as the mayor alluded to, it's really important to understand where we stood when we began the process of trying to sort through how to address the mayor's goal as articulated to the team, which is increase the amount of affordable housing coming from this site, and with the goal of maximizing the site for affordable housing. So we began the process, it reminded me of the Apollo 13. We took all the tools, we threw them on the table, and as the mayor suggested, we tried to be a little creative in coming up with solutions, recognizing the tools we had to work with and recognizing the place we sat in the history of the property. So if you turn to the first page, sort of legal background, I'll run through it quickly because everyone probably is well aware of it. But as the mayor suggested, in 2005, 2006, an effort was undertaken by the city and the city agencies to have this property cleaned up by Honeywell. And that process culminated in a consent order that was signed to by all the parties and approved by the courts. And that consent order now frames our relationship with the redeveloper. That consent order contemplated that over time, Honeywell would clean up the site. They would make a prepayment to the city, I think it was in 2008, of $25 million. And they would go through they would clean up the site to get to the point where that site could be put back in commerce.
Could I say one thing, just to chime in? That $25 million is a payment in order to help the administration at that time. It still is an obligation that we have once we sell our portion of the property. So you understand that that obligation has been hanging out there for 10 years.
It's almost like if I said to you, look, I'm gonna buy your house for $10 million tomorrow, but I'll give you $4 million today, so I only owe you $6 million later. So it was a prepayment, effectively, on the city's rights to its 38% share of the project when it was sold. So we're in a situation where we now have a consent order, we have a redevelopment agreement. It's carefully crafted, 170 pages each or so, that really defines our relationship with Honeywell. Fast forward to this year, Honeywell is now in a position where, as the mayor described, the site's cleaned up, and they're looking to put the site back into commerce and sell it. Before that process was, they're in the process of trying to evaluate the value. And before they began that process, we approached them and said, look, we want to figure out a way to maximize the amount of affordable housing in the project. And in order to do that, their financial advisors prepared a very dense, robust analysis of what is the future rents going to be, what are the construction costs going to be, what are the infrastructure costs going to be, to get to a point where if we all could estimate today, if the property was sold, what it would be worth.
One other thing that the board of Honeywell told very clearly management is that they would like to be out of this Honeywell project entirely by the end of this year. So we are working on a timeline here that Honeywell feels that the project is clean, they fulfilled their obligation, they're looking to put out an RFP at this point through the summer, and to wrap this up with a responsible buyer by the end of this year. And that's the direction of the board for Honeywell, who is the majority owner of that. I'd also like to point out that one obstacle along the way here, from our standpoint, is that Honeywell's objective is to sell the entire property and to move on. Doesn't necessarily, which we'll talk about later, maximize the value of the property, because if it was to be sold off in smaller pieces over time, Of course, the value would be significantly higher because we would control that process, but Honeywell is not in that business, and nor should they be, and nor do they have any obligation to be. So their obligation is to sell the property to a master developer, like they pursued one time previously, and then to exit that in a responsible manner to somebody selected. And so we have to work within that framework as well. So from a timeline and from a responsibility standpoint.
So to the mayor's point,
I would also like to add that currently the redevelopment plan does prescribe a certain amount of affordable housing, but it's only 10% and it's workforce. And workforce is generally defined as 120% of AMI, so it's at the higher end of the income scale. And only 5% of that has to be on site. So there's consideration on the part of the administration to see what we can do to, as the mayor pointed out, maximize the affordable housing. Because in this is very, I think everyone would agree this is minimal.
so it's 5%.
Diana Jeffrey, Director of the JCRA.
And then the other 5% would be a payment in lieu. So the other 5% would be up to $150,000 of a payment in lieu. So 5% under the current agreement approved by the court, signed by the agency 10 years ago, 5% on-site, 5% a payment to the city to go into its Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which you could then use to build affordable housing throughout the city or rehab or whatever, basically whatever it would choose to do.
So the obligation is minimal, and that was agreed upon by previous council and administration and Honeywell as well.
So if you turn to the next page, it's called accrued redevelopment costs. And this is, we're working on the assumption that, and we think it's a good assumption, that if we sold the property tomorrow to a redeveloper, a master redeveloper, they would pay approximately $105 million for the property. As the mayor said, that's a low number if we had sold it over time, because whoever puts out $105 million today will certainly not build that project out in years, probably decades. So the return on their investment will take a very long time to achieve, which partially drives the purchase price down.
And one of the obstacles on this is that when you look to sell a property for $100 million versus a property for $10 million, the number of bidders is obviously less. There's a smaller pool of people that could lay out $100 million versus the number of people that could lay out $10 million. But we are constrained by the parameters as the limited partner in this project and Honeywell's objective to exit it. So as it stands today, we're within the framework of a one-time exit, soliciting bidders nationally that will bid that amount or whatever is appropriate. The process is they get approved by a mutually agreed upon broker. Currently, they get approved that they're capable of it, and then once the RFP goes out, there'll be a public process on that later on this year.
And that contemplates a single closing. They take all the property, the redeveloper takes all the property down at once in one swoop. So we're going to work with this $105 million number, and remember that the city's entitled to 38% of that number. And you'll see on the next page accrued redevelopment costs, where we identify for you how that $105 million would get spent if we sold the property tomorrow or at the end of this year as we expect the purchase price. And you'll see on the planning side, we're picking up about 38% of the costs. Those are expenses that are going to be incurred as part of the process. We won't see those actual dollars. Fees, insurance, and taxes, the same thing. That's our share of what will have to come out of pocket from the $105 million purchase price. Same thing with the landfill remedy. The last two categories you'll see, we're picking up 100% of the cost. And the question is why? Why in that case is 100% of the dollars coming in being charged to the JCRA and the Jersey City? And that's because we have to, the $25 million that Honeywell paid us, they're going to get back. So that $25 million goes to them, not us, even though it's part of our percent. And the same thing for remaining demolition. We have an obligation, as part of the remaining demolition of some of the facilities under the agreements, to pay $6 million. So the numbers pretty closely come out to, if we sold it tomorrow, the affordable housing will be the 10% we described, 5% on, 5% off, with no money coming to the Jersey City or the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency, because that money, we already received it a long time ago, whatever our share was. So that sort of is how we began the project. That's our baseline situation.
And you should know that the bids that came back last year were pretty much in that range. So The market probably hasn't changed that substantially since then. So at the $110 million, we're looking today at pretty much a break-even situation on this project, okay? So we're all on the same page, okay?
And one of the things that'll be important, and again, it'll be revealed sort of as we go through the process, but whoever buys that land is going to have, in addition to buying it for $105 million, is going to have a huge infrastructure nut that they have to pay. They're going to have to build the roads, the sewers, the water, the stormwater. There's a park. There's other infrastructure requirements to that property that whoever buys that, the third-party developer that we'd sell it to in the future, they're going to have to meet all these obligations. They're written into the agreements. They're part of the redevelopment plan. Those are obligations that they'll have to take on. So the person that's buying the land, or the entity that's buying the land, also has to analyze what's it going to cost to put in the infrastructure. That number is estimated at $60 to $70 million. So if you're buying the land, if you're the national redeveloper that's going to take all the property down in December, you have to, before you are in a process of building vertically, putting in the housing projects, coming out of the ground with anything that produces revenues, you have about $60 or $70 million worth of infrastructure. And that's an important number as we go through the process and describe sort of some of the options. So this, before we begin then, before there's a single units built, you're already incurring about $14,000 to $17,000 per unit in land and infrastructure costs before you've actually put a shovel in the ground, put in a foundation, started to go vertical. So that's even before any of those costs.
Any questions up to this point on anything? Did we lose anybody on any stuff? All right, okay.
And we listed there some of the key infrastructure improvements, but there's Route 440 improvements, there's an internal ring road, there's secondary roads, there's a bulkhead, which is particularly expensive, a promenade, and a central park. All those things required by whoever is going to own the property pursuant to the redevelopment plan.
I'll go through the scenarios when we get there.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah, this is one where I need Dennis's help.
You want to do that? So the next page, which we'll bring up Dennis shortly for, but I'm going to go first through the next couple pages, and then we'll go back to this. This basically outlines for you the cost for each unit with realistic estimates. So you could see there that each time that we add a workforce housing unit, it's a cost to whoever's the master developer of about $53,000 per unit. And when you develop an affordable unit, it's about $193,000, and that's targeting a lower AMI, of course. So that brings us to the next 3 pages, which we'll talk through and we'll answer some questions, which, as I said earlier, is a little bit of direction on which way you want us to pursue this. We're capable of all 3 from an affordability standpoint for the city. Each of them have different risks. Each of them are different degrees of ambition and vision, but we need a little bit of guidance on this. The first thing that you see there is scenario 1, which is pretty much the existing structure as it is today. There's no risk to the city. There's a dollar amount that goes into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
I'm sorry, Mayor, we just cannot have any, we can't fit any more people in this room right now. And if you're here about the Catton Forest Memorial, we'll get to that in due time, but this is, if we could ask some people to perhaps wait out in the hallway to relieve the congestion or sit in the council chambers for a few minutes, we'll call you when that issue comes up. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so the first scenario here is what was that?
He's here for this.
Who, Pat?
Yeah, why don't you try this door? Try that door. Yeah, that can be unlocked.
The first scenario that you see here is this scenario that exists today.
Okay, everyone. All right.
The first scenario is the. Okay. We good? You want to close the door maybe over there? Just limit them outside? You want to limit people from coming in at this point? I mean, it's a fire hazard. Okay. Okay. Good? Okay. The first scenario that you see there is the most conservative scenario. I would say the least vision long-term and the least risk. It basically outlines that we would proceed with the plan as the plan is outlined today, agreed upon 10 years ago. It would provide 5% affordable housing, workforce housing on the site, 5% off into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And there's limited flexibility, there's limited risk. And it would take some time with a master developer to complete that. We'd stick with the timetable. By the end of the year that the RFP will be approved by the city and Honeywell, and we will exit and proceed with that plan accordingly. Scenario number 2 is an increase to 10% and 10% affordable housing. You could see it there, some on-site, some off-site. And a mix, a little bit more of a mix on the type of affordable housing. And there's a realistic cost to all of this stuff. In this scenario, we would obviously repay the $40 million out of the sale price, first and foremost, and then we would be obligated to bond for an additional $42 million in order to increase that additional 10% of affordable housing. Both our financial planners and Honeywell's financial planners agree on these estimated numbers on what the cost for the infrastructure is. And that's scenario 2. It certainly does increase the number of affordable units, but again, we don't control the site. There is some timeline to getting that completed, but we would be out of this project in addition to Honeywell by the end of this year, other than looking at it as we look at any other development project. The third scenario, which is the one that we want to discuss, is the most ambitious and the most aggressive, but also I think bears the most positive results for the future of the city ultimately. But also it's the most risk, of course, because realistically, when the plan comes to fruition at the end of the day in 10 years, chances are we'll have a different administration and different council here. So it's important that we're responsible in the decision making. In this situation, that the city would bid as a master developer and look to take out the entire project as the owner of that. And it would entail basically debt of $170 million. Now, the advantages to that are, number one is we'd be able to sell the pieces in tranches, and we feel that if we're responsible over time, we'll be able to recoup our investment, if not make some money. We'd be able to maximize the site as affordable housing and workforce housing. We'd have time as an asset because we'd essentially be the master developer, but it also has a lot of risk. And $170 million is a real number. Don't kid yourself on that. That's a very, very large number by any estimate. So those are the 3 scenarios. I don't know if you want to add anything additional.
Yeah, just so what drives the value to the city and gives us that much more money to have that much more affordable housing is the cost of carry, the cost of money to the city of Jersey City is dramatically lower than the private redeveloper. The city can borrow the money at much lower rates. We have the ability to parcel the property up over time and sell it to a much broader range of possible developers. There's not a huge list of people that can buy a $105 million development project and wait 20 years to see them realize it, but there's a long list of developers, Jersey City's familiar with many of them, who can buy 100 or 200 unit parcels over time. We control everything. We control the zoning, we control the property, we would control the infrastructure, the timing of the infrastructure. It's literally the city just taking control as a master redeveloper of its own property and driving all of the financial benefit of that process back into the ability to do more affordable housing.
We would be able to carry this from a budgetary standpoint. We've outlined that, and I'm pretty comfortable in that estimate. And as we pursue this, or if you want to pursue this, we'd be able to outline that to you with a little bit more clarity. But $170 million is a real number, and we didn't want to go any further with our work on our side without a conversation with all of you about directionally what you want to do here. There's 3 choices, and we'll take the cue from you on which direction you think is best. I will go on the record and say that I am a proponent of the third option. I think that the city will grow and develop and be a great city with great vision. And I think that you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually think big on this property. And I think we'd be foolish if we just accepted the bare minimum and the most conservative approach. It's not without risk, it's not without concerns, but I think that from my standpoint, I think that that's where I would prefer. But that said, there's a partnership here and we need some directions because, like I said, $170 million is a real number.
The only thing I would add to the mayor's comments is the risk is, it's not like we're giving away the cash, we're changing cash into a hard asset. So we're not putting $170 million out and not having something to show for. We're gonna have $170 million worth of real estate. So we're really just, if you think about it in terms of your own investment, you're turning money that you have in your bank account into a piece of land that you can develop over time and have great control because you're also the government.
How many affordable housing do you think it
You
can?
control the site. The last plan, and you can't hold me to it, would go up to, we control the plan ultimately. So the advantage is that you could have different developers who specialize in different type of housing at different points in time, something that Honeywell isn't as interested in. The numbers could get up to about 1,400 was the number I think that we threw out there. Is that right? 1,400, 35% of the units, 1,400, and they would be family-sized units. We're talking about larger 2 and 3 bedroom type houses, apartments.
And that you could achieve within the first 10 years, more or less. It's our calculation. You can achieve up to 35% affordable housing over the entire site in just the first 10 years.
But there's market risk, right? There certainly is market risk and timing risk and government risk and responsibility risk. All those things exist, right? But this is directionally, and we're not here to ask for obviously a direction today. We'll email you all over information on this stuff, and then we're here to answer questions. But in the next week, 2 weeks, I will ask from each of you directions on what you pursue individually, so that way we can collectively work with Honeywell on whichever way you want to work. They've been really good partners up till now, and they've been really, really cooperative in everything that we've asked, trying to achieve it, and we wouldn't expect this to be different as long as they're not losing money, that's not our objective on this.
Just to confirm, for scenario 2, there's nothing off-site. Everything is on 10%, affordable 10%, workforce on.
There is the 10% workforce.
It's on site, both on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Councilman Robinson?
Denise, I would just say that it's 42 plus what we owe Honeywell, so it's plus the 39 really, right? So it's 42 additional debt, 39 what we're paying out of our debt. But I would point out that we don't control the property. We don't control the fate of it. We don't control the timing of it. We'd work with whoever the developer is in that sort of scenario.
And the 42 million, we don't have a revenue offset for it either, right? So
Right.
the 170 million, we're going to sell land, we're going to buy down the debt, sell a parcel, buy down the debt. Over time, we have revenues that will come in to reduce the debt. Ultimately, hopefully, the goal would be to wipe it out entirely so that it never ends up. But for the $42 million, we pay for the infrastructure and then we get affordable housing later. But the city doesn't, that money comes straight out of the budget without any future revenue to match it.
In scenario 3, you have an asset. So if the market collapses, you still have an asset. And you could always sell that for whatever the market would bear if we needed to. But the goal is that we wouldn't. We would be able to responsibly build it. But $170 million, it's a big number, but 1,400 families is also a big number.
I think you helped answer part of the question I was going to ask is, what would a market crash do to the timeline and the $170 million debt?
Like the biggest concern is that I'm not here, you're not here, none of us are here, and we're making a decision that's going to impact the city for a long, long time. And it's just really important that you have responsible leadership continuing to steward this, because it is a big number. And it needs to hit certain timetables in order to make sure that the project comes to reality. Any other questions?
Anything else?
I think it has more to do with access to public transportation and the roadways, so maybe we can have that as a separate conversation when we get more information on what this number looks like. Because you're talking, with the proposed density and the number of units going in, that's gonna add that many more people on our roadways and using an already overtaxed public transportation system. And the south side and the west side of the city are, we don't have a lot of options. So just, when we're talking about infrastructure, if we can have that be part of the conversation too, I think that would be really important.
Our numbers on the units haven't changed from what the plan is today. So the number of units or the number of people, it's the same density. We haven't changed that. If the light rail comes, we'd be able to obviously change that, but we'd be in control of the fate of the city.
There are two numbers in the plan that is recognized. So we are using the estimate on the lower density that the plan allows. If the light rail comes, which is part of the estimates that every developer is making, then you can double the density. And so obviously the numbers that we're giving you, then obviously the upside for the city increases as well.
There's no question, it would be the most ambitious plan and the biggest plan that the city has ever seen. There's no question about that. It's a big number, big opportunity for the city. Since yeah, that's true.
Scenario 3, can you provide kind of the underlying assumptions as to the economics? Like you say, over 10 years could recoup 30, would you say 35%?
You can do 35% affordable housing.
35%
Again,
affordable.
What we'll send you is, it's not in this proposal, we'll send you, they have a spreadsheet that NW Financial did that with estimates on if we sell $10 million tranches at different timetables, how that would play out over time. And it's an estimate assuming that there's no market risk. So you'll get an idea for that, and then you'll get the same idea what that does to our budget as you pay down some of the debt on this. So, I mean, you have Honeywell's lawyer here. He's the first time he's hearing this as well. But we felt comfortable because it's a cooperative relationship up till now, and we're not looking to, we're not looking to end up in litigation with Honeywell. It doesn't benefit anybody. We're looking to come to some sort of solution that I think serves everybody.
Get us to the 35% affordable to make it affordable.
What was that?
No, but to get us to that 35%.
Maximum.
Okay.
And remember, when you build the units, they'll start making pilot payments as well. So that part of the revenue stream will help pay the debt off as well.
When you looked at our risk as a city in scenario 3 again, the budgetary assumptions for the city, modest, conservative, what was your?
Pretty conservative on them. I don't have them with me because my family's been working on this, but we talked about them. They were pretty conservative. But between the value of the land and pilot payments, you should be reasonably well protected, assuming no great recession again or something.
I didn't think it was anything that we couldn't handle from a budget standpoint, the debt obligation per year. And I'll send that to you as well. When you look at it, you'll see that we could certainly handle it. I mean, it's not going to be the easiest thing, but it's something that we could collectively do if we wanted to go this route.
And it takes careful management because we can stay in short-term debt or we can go in long-term debt. There's a lot of things we can do with the debt to manage the interest carry, with capitalized interest and other things. So there's a myriad of ways. But as the mayor sort of alluded, it's a big project that requires great discipline and
you
care.
borrow on an as-needed basis. You wouldn't borrow $170 million all up front.
So you contemplate a worst-case scenario? So you say like $10 million tranches selling it, like market goes south, and we're looking at $5 million tranches.
Market goes south, we have the luxury of time, right? Like, we're government, so we have some advantages that a private developer doesn't have. Like, we could actually wait a downturn out. And so
And your cost of money is in the 4% range, and developers in the double-digit range. So it's a big difference.
See, yeah.
So we talk about the big number. I just finished the dinner, so make me everything is stay here now. Say $170 million. So this is one way to look at it. If we purchase the price 105 and we spend $70 million infrastructure, when you spend $170 million, minute we spend $170 million, the land price probably how many percent you can appreciate it? Go up. Probably 30%, easy. Yeah, it's going to go. Yeah, so probably 30% go up. But infrastructure-wise, we don't have to spend that $70 million just one shot. We can buy step by step. So meantime, we got to look at the finance, how we're going to be financed $100-some million, you know what I'm saying? So those kind of things we cannot discuss right now. So yes, so we got more, we need time to digest because, yeah, $170 million, a lot of money.
Yeah, but I thought that conceptually it was important that you understand what we're thinking. It wouldn't have made sense for us to continue going down the road of purchasing the whole thing or doing nothing without buy-in from all of you, so.
My thing is this one. Even though we not the mass development just one time, if it goes by timeline, so first phase, second phase, when you finish the first phase, second phase, the land price go up again. When you finish second phase, the third phase price is going to go up. So end of day, what added to city end of day, it's going to be huge. You know, so $170 million sounds like a lot of money, but as if you look at it long term, I think the benefit to the city of Jersey financially, big time we're going to get it. You know, maybe we're going to able to pay all the bond, outstanding bond we can pay one time. So who knows what? Yes. So we have to look into. So any questions? Where we have the council people contact with their work?
So
any meetings?
We will send an email collectively with us on there and connect you with Dennis as well. And then any questions, just go through the redevelopment agency.
Yes. Okay. So we can ask more things. Okay. But
yeah.
Yeah. So we all the same page, right? A lot of money. Oh God. A lot of opportunity. Yes, of course, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you just we prepare the infrastructure itself, the land value going to go skyrocket, and that's the only one left in Jersey City for the Bayfront. Wow.
There's nowhere else in the region you could think about doing 1,400 family-sized units that are affordable, and the only way to do that is if the city is in control of the property. That's the reality. So it's a decision that we have to make collectively. Okay? Well, thank you very much. Enjoy the meeting. Okay?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome to stay if you want.
Mario, may you speak as a favorite carnival?
No, I didn't even know this was happening.
Oh, okay.
Not the first time you've been ambushed here, Kavanaugh.
Wasn't why I freaked out.
Okay, if everyone can leave quietly. Yeah, I'm gonna take care of it. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Dennis. All right. Okay, so I know there's a couple of items out there that most of the people are here for, but we brought in a wonderful artist who's here to share some information with us and let us know about the exhibit here. So hopefully you can all enjoy this presentation from Susan Newman.
Which are the cookies?
Which are the cookies?
Yes.
I'm not sure there are any cookies up. I don't know.
There's one cookie.
Good afternoon, Council President Lavaro and Jersey City City Council members. I am deeply honored to be here today to talk for a few minutes about Frogs Are Green. My name is Susan Newman, and I am the founder and president of the organization. We are on an awareness mission to educate the public about the threats to frogs and amphibians. Frogs are threatened by habitat loss, climate change, pollution, and disease. Because they breathe and drink through their skin, they are extremely sensitive to an unhealthy environment. Chemicals, pesticides, ozone, and UV are dangerous, even deadly to them. According to the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, a third of the world's amphibian species are threatened with extinction. This spring marks our 10th year, and our voice grows stronger each day. Through blogging, interviews, social media, and a variety of annual events, we have reached millions of people. Every fall, Frogs Are Green holds a kids' art contest for ages 3 to 17 and a photo contest that is open to all ages. Hundreds of entries come in from over 30 countries and as close as Hoboken and Jersey City. And this number increases every year. I'm proud to say that this is a yearly project in the Jersey City public school system, and the students have entered for the last 4 years. Children are naturally curious about nature and can express themselves through art in a way they cannot always express verbally. To inspire them, we change the theme every year. This past year, we received close to 1,000 artworks, and the selection on the walls in this caucus room were curated from the winners in 2017. The theme was amphibians and reptiles. The contest will open again in September with a new theme and a new selection of judges. This fall, we will partner with another organization to raise funds to save the frogs and the rainforest. We do not charge any fees to enter. In addition to our annual contests and spring exhibitions, we design and publish books for adults and children to learn from and enjoy. These are a few of the books that we've published, and we have more in development. Our New Jersey nonprofit organization is called Frogs Are Green because we believe that healthy frogs mean a healthy planet. By saving the frogs, we will also save our planet and ourselves. Thank you. No, that's a different Susan. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Susan?
No.
Just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your artwork with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you are?
Oh, Susan, actually, I do have one question. Is the artwork for sale, if anyone wanted to purchase it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah? Okay.
They're just prints, though. So,
Yeah.
I mean, technically,
And the
anybody
donation?
that would really want them, if they take the show down, just contact us and we'll just give them to you.
The money goes to where?
Oh, the money goes to the organization, and we either donate or we use it to help fund, publishing books or whatever we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care of the customer. Okay, we're going to address 3 different items. We've got 3G, 10F, and 10Z20.
3G, 10F, you said?
Yep, and 10Z20. They are one ordinance and 2 resolutions related to the Caucus Forest Massacre Memorial.
They should be showing up on Wednesday night,
Right.
because that's where you could speak. And
Right.
you should bring about 200, 300 of you.
I think you just did.
Right, you just explained.
Folks, you're all welcome to attend on city council meeting. On Wednesday, you have to call in advance if you want to speak publicly at the meeting, but everyone's welcome to speak.
One name per call.
One name per call, and you would call the number 201-547.
5150.
5150. 201-547-5150. That's a city clerk, and you can sign up to speak at that meeting for the public.
I can
Public speaking
guarantee you, having married a Polish girl, I can pronounce all the names, but my staff will have a little difficulty. Please spell your names very carefully to them if you do call in.
And I should also add then that the ordinance that's before us is on 3G. Wednesday will be what's called the first reading of the ordinance, where it would be introduced at the city council. But then the second reading would be on June 13th, which is the meeting, council meeting on June 13th will be second reading. And you'll have an opportunity also to speak at a second reading ordinance if you want to speak publicly. And that's where the council.
Without having to sign up.
Without having to sign up, and you could speak at that meeting as well, or instead. And for the public hearing on public speaking for this Wednesday, it's a 5-minute time limit to speak at that one. And then on the following meeting, you can speak with no limits to your time, as long as you stay on the subject of the topic itself. That being said, why don't we start with 3G and 10F?
Approved 3G, it's on legal size paper, so it should stick out of your package.
Okay, what's the improvement on this?
That I'll leave to,
I can speak to it.
oh, okay, Bhavani.
Bhavani Doshi with the Law Department. Based on discussions with the representative from the committee, from the Caton Forest Massacre Memorial Committee, we learned that we should adjust some minor language, replace the maintenance with stewardship. So that's what we did. That was based on their request. So where in the ordinance before it said the committee will maintain the memorial, it now says the committee will partner with the city in stewardship over the memorial. It basically, the committee was not comfortable with taking on full responsibility for maintenance, so we didn't want to give them that responsibility if they didn't want it. So we're going to continue to have that, and they're going to be partners in stewardship of their memorial, which means that we will draft an agreement that gives them continued input in the location and other stewardship responsibilities, but the maintenance will continue to be the city and the ownership will continue to be the city's, because whoever owns the memorial will have to maintain it. So this will take that responsibility away, and that's per their request. The city. The city owns it, the city maintains it, so that's going to continue. And what we'll do is now have the committee as a partner in stewardship over the memorial, which was that was the best way we could come up with to have their input in the long-term location and all the ceremonial aspects of the memorial, because that's what really the goal is, to be able to have access to the memorial for ceremonial purposes. So that's what that will do, the agreement.
All right, and also, I just got a call before, and I gotta get back to this person, either where the land is, where the land is now, or where it's being moved to, was funded by Green Acres Funds, and the city has no right moving the statue.
Who's the committee?
I'll have to let you-
Who is the committee? Because you said you met with the committee. I want to understand that. Who's the committee?
The committee is in the ordinance, and it is the Caton Forest Massacre Memorial Committee, Inc.
I thought they were all, when we sat in this room, all of them were dead against moving that statue. They were so irritated about what happened. And
Question answered yet.
what got to them?
I think she's asking who they are specifically.
Right, who are they? Because you have a group here, and based on the applause, you would think they're part of the committee. Now, are they a part of the committee, any of them in here?
Who are the members of the
No, none of them here are part of the committee. So the committee is not here that came up with an agreement, correct? Any of them?
How many members in the committee?
I don't know the full size. This is Peter Baker, Corporation Counsel.
Folks, no, this is not public speaking opportunities. Folks,
So now the committee is not here, but the committee met with the law department to come up with this agreement.
We've spoken to their legal counsel in negotiating terms, including the terms that are contained in the ordinance that's before the council. They are the individuals, one, who have filed court proceedings in this case, and we've been negotiating with their attorney to reach these terms.
I gotta know that. All right.
And Councilwoman, this is also the group that gifted the statue to the city in the first place. Yes, Councilwoman. Yes.
Yes, I know, I read that, okay. All right. No, I read the ordinance. Read the old ordinance, it was gifted.
So we know how many members make up the committee? And do they actually meet with the public?
I don't know the number or the composition of the committee, and I don't know their meeting schedule or whatever other activities they perform. However, I have been speaking through their legal counsel as is proper in a matter like this.
But they've been operating since
Since at least 1986.
Right. Many of them are probably no longer with us, the original committee members.
There's a president of the committee who's reached out to the city, and we have his contact information. So and I think there's 5 members currently on it.
Yeah, well, where have they been for the last 30 years? And also, the Council General sat right here in this seat here and was violently against it, was unbelievably violently against it, and all of a sudden, something happened and he changed his mind.
Yes.
The President of Poland does not want the statue moved, what I understand.
All I know is that they have a committee. Now, it's the committee's responsibility to meet with the public, especially if we're talking about changing some type of law or statute. Now, you're putting us in between this battle, but the truth is, though, that's why they have a committee. They voted those people in some way or another, and if those people... listen, then you need to meet with the committee, because the committee is making decisions.
Councilwoman,
Even though that they don't know. Let me talk, all right? The committee may be making decisions, and the population, the Polish population may not know. So we're in between here because we're basing everything on the committee. And then you have a group of people here saying the committee's not representing them. So it's a problem, it's a breakdown somewhere.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
I'll share that with counsel for the committee. Exactly what you just said.
Why don't we just say it honestly? It's Matt Cali, the SID, which has 3 members from Matt Cali on your board, which is wrong, and that's the reason they want this. There's no need for it. I worked down here for 16 years. I got to know a lot of people in this neighborhood down there, and a lot of the old Polish people, and they're violently against this. And these people come along down the waterfront, and they want to make all these changes. They should stay out and mind their business. Leave the statue where it is.
Folks, I said at the outset that outbursts are not permitted in this caucus. Please adhere to the rules and the guidelines of the caucus meeting.
So actually, this is the meeting we discuss the more item by items. So now, the Caucus and Council?
Yes.
Peter? Your best. Right, okay, yeah. The first things that when they changed the replacement, I like to have some fact sheets so more easy to understand. Last minute you just give us, it's very difficult because we don't know. Because when I read that, it's actually I was wondering, so the committee gave to us as a gift to the statute to the city of Jersey. So when I read that, why the committee have responsibility for maintenance, I scratch my head. So now I understand that correctly. That's why things went. So now, the statue, you believe one that belong to city of Jersey now because they give to us as a gift. So now, if they relocate, remove, and the street, who paid the expensive? City of Jersey, right?
No.
Do you know? Okay, now, so you say no. So no.
No. The city, the St. Louis City is going to pay for the moving of the statue, and we're not going to pay for any of that.
So, exchange SID will be paid for, remove the statues.
Yeah.
Wow, they are very generous, right? I'm really.
With 3 representatives from Matt Cali on their board.
No, I mean, just let me.
Rich, let him finish.
Yes.
This whole thing.
We're trying to help people here.
Yes, we try
need
to.
as much information as
Yes.
possible.
So, exchange place SID will be pick up the 100% cost of that, remove and storage.
Well, we hope to not have to store it. We don't want to take it off the street at all. We hope to just move it right away to the spot a block or 2 away.
Okay, so then.
So it's going to take some engineering work to do some designing that we will be the point people on. We will likely be able to do a lot of this in-house, but there may be some things. I don't want to promise it's going to cost us 0, but there may be a couple of little planning and engineering things we might have to do with some outside help.
Let me correct. If a city resource you use for the architecture's engineer, maybe not directly not cost for us, but indirectly it's cost for the taxpayer. We try to look at, yes, they are. So now, item by item, so now we're gonna remove statues to moving costs paid by Exchange SID now. Then move to York Street in the installation. Who's gonna pay for installation?
You're gonna pay for that whole process.
So,
Folks,
The exchange place did, yeah.
please.
Exchange place gonna be, Exchange SID gonna pay for remove
Yeah.
the moving costs and the installation costs they will pay for.
It's hopefully one movement. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it's.
Yeah.
And installation, build up the foundation, all the architecture work, engineering paid by.
Exchange place did, most of it. There might be some little things we have to cover. And then the mayor mentioned a commitment by the government of Poland to potentially fund some of it. We still have to work that out. The park around it, we have to get this in control.
Okay, everyone, please. If you can't observe the rules.
As we cannot do our job, because we have to know exactly how much it costs for taxpayer, what is the benefit. Then now, my next question, exchange plus SID.
Continue on. Folks, we're standing back there, crowding up against the council over there. If you'd like, some of you can move over here, who are immediately like right on top of the council. I'd appreciate it. I'd ask you to move over.
Out that door, come in that door.
You can just walk right through, it's fine.
So no,
the folks who are right on top, right over here, in this area. Pat and others. Mr. Amelia, can I ask you to move over towards this side, if that's okay? Along with anyone else who's... No, I'm just asking for the folks who are over right there on top of the council.
So, yeah. Remove, relocate, and the reinstallation, the cost is not cheap. Expensive, perhaps $500,000, maybe more. Because as you know, York Street, under the York Street is a different foundation to require. You know what I'm saying, right?
We've already, our engineers have already taken a look. They're already thinking about exactly where it can go. They have some great ideas. Nothing's totally finalized yet. There's still some more drawings that need to be done. But the original place that it's in now had the same issues. There's infrastructure underneath it. There's sewer underneath it. There's not necessarily sewer underneath this one, but so it's the same kind of deal.
So the reason I'm asking you, 2001, our city clerk Robert very remember that. We tried to build the Korean War Veterans Monument. At the city council passed the resolution, give us the land to the Korean War Veterans Association, foot of Grand Street as a site of the monument. So at the time, we are so glad to be able to build, but when we spoke with city engineer, they said, Michael, you cannot build it because under the Grand Street has a sewer line. So in other words, you cannot dig it up to build up the foundation. Cost is, you can do it, nothing impossible. Depends on how much you're going to spend it. You can build, but cost is going to be a fortune. So actually, city engineer at the time, city council passed the resolution as a foot of Grand Street. After the city engineer recommended foot of Washington Street as a Korean Veterans Monument. That's why we changed our resolution. That's the way we built the Washington Street. So now, you can build, even though doesn't matter what kind of seat is underground. Yes, technology what we have, they can build top of it. So their cost matter of the cost. Cost can be more than what they exchange, SID expect. Something we expect can be. So we gotta make sure that those kind of expense can be $1 million. And now, we wanna know then why exchange place SID willing to spend close to $1 million to remove statue from exchange place. What is the reason they want to?
To do other improvements in the area. They're going to spend a lot of money in that area already to do other improvements.
Other improvements. Can you just explain to us what they means other improvements they want to do there?
I don't have any plans with me right now, but we can send some to you. Sure. Sure. They have some stuff.
So now, this is very important part of one. This is what we concern. They are improved plan. Cannot do improve plan that definitely require to meet the statutes, or they can make improvement to with the statutes surrounding area.
I'll get you some, the plans. I'll get you some plans, yeah. Sure,
Okay.
Sure.
So now, Brian, we're still waiting for Peter Stuyvesant to be moved back, and it's 3 years now. You know, come on.
Let's stay on this ordinance and resolutions.
This one actually, the police community have to be understand, this is a franchise agreement. We give to the land, I mean, not give to them, we give the right to use the land, 99 years, not the dollar, just 99 years. 99 years later, that land, if we not extend the franchise agreement, the city can move on the statute someplace else.
I can. Some of the discussions that we've had, it was the amended version that was passed around. It will not be conveyed in the form of a franchise agreement at this point. Instead, as Ms. Doshi was describing, it will be a joint agreement for the stewardship of the statue. The statue will remain the property of the city, but there will be a stewardship agreement we will enter into with the committee for the maintenance of that statue. But at this time, again, pursuant to our negotiations, there's not going to be an ownership or control interest conveyed.
But this is ordinance of is actually more like a franchise agreement.
Pardon me?
This is a franchise agreement.
This is just move it, this is just move it. This is signaling our intent to engage in another agreement. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Is the lawsuit still going on?
It is currently pending. We are currently returnable in July.
A lot of this stuff has to be investigated. There's some more stuff that has to be looked into, and the statute, being honest with you, the city should just walk away from it. Exchange Place, there's no need for another park down in Exchange Place. Downtown has millions of parks all over this downtown area. Take the money that they're gonna put down there, let's put it in other areas of the city.
So now, after they moved to the York Street,
Folks, if you can't abide by the rules, we're going to have people removed. It's as simple as that.
instance of one thing, actually, when the mayor tweeting, they're gonna build up the park in the York Street, you know, then they build up the park surrounding area, the York Street. Who's gonna pay for the build up the park?
That part of it was, the intent was to get funding from the Polish government, although that part of it has not been finalized yet.
So in other words, Polish government to guarantee that the York Street, that area of the statue area, gonna be, the park, they're gonna pay for the price.
Yeah.
Do they give paper signing, anything like that?
No, nothing signed yet. I mean, this is the first legal document that we presented to council. This is the first one, and it's going to take several to do all the moving pieces, and we don't want to sign anything without having a design that everyone has approved yet. So it's a lot of steps. And
so, this is my personal opinion. Who live in Jersey 40 years? This is the will be happening. The minute they move that statue from the Exchange Place to York Street, and then the Exchange Place, they're going to make a park. Did you see that they're rendering, right? A lot of grass area, water park. You know what's going to be happening? Average around the 20 city major event hold Exchange Place. When they finish the park, that 20 the major, city event, they're not going to take their place anymore. Because why? When you see that, a lot of grass areas, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to put your tent on top of the grass area. So when I look at it, Exchange Place will be privatized only for the people who live in that area to have their own park will be. Today's Exchange Place open to public. They can have a festival. When they have a festival in the Exchange Place, people, whoever attend their place, they have pride at the view and the location. And then when you take up the statues, when they make a park, I'm telling you, the park only belongs to Exchange Place only for themselves. And the most the event we hold at Exchange Place will be stopped at. Because why? The damage of the park they build with plenty of grass, plenty of water park. So in other words, city solely provide service for those area people without consider all the rest of the people of Jersey City. You know, so my strong recommendation, this case on the court already. We don't know what kind of result we're gonna get it, number one. Number two, it's a sad story. Under the statute, they have ash, it's a bones is there, you know?
Okay.
So we, actually, if somebody moved that my father's ash in one place, another place, it's gonna break my heart. You know what I'm saying? Because, and also, whole things goes wrong, don't blame the city council, don't blame the police community, because one of the board members that exchange press SID say that describe the statue as gruesome. In other words, simply called ugly. That's insult the people of Jersey City, that insult the people of police community, they insult everybody. Even though their intentions are good, as a councilperson, hard to accept it. If somebody called the Korean War Veteran Monument ugly, probably I go after them, really heavy. So I'm not blaming this community. They stand up to protect their statues and their pride. As I say, I come from the Korea, but we built the Korean War Veterans Monument because their history is my motherland, the Korean history, but as a Korean American, their history now belongs to the city of Jersey City. There's stories that Canton is a massacre, that story, when the community bring up here, then from the motherland, their story, not only them, the history part of our Jersey City. So actually relocated the monument, which has a pride, actually insult the community. It's a matter of the principle. And they shouldn't be, that CEO of SID, they shouldn't be called their statue gruesome or ugly. That's unacceptable.
Okay. Who else? Did someone else have comments or questions?
Lubuzowski. He supposedly brokered the deal between the administration and the Catron Memorial Group. He's also a real estate developer. I mean, who is he? I mean, where'd he come from? And, you know, I mean, let's be honest with you. This is all about big money on the waterfront. We have the Irish Festival down there. We have the Caribbean Festival down there. Leave Exchange Place alone. The water park down there for kids. What are you kidding me? That's business people down in that area. Leave the
Council
statue.
President, added one, that statue never bothered their festival, any event up there. You know what I'm saying? And they never even, that statue never dropped a piece of paper in that exchange place. So please, end of day, this is a most diverse city. We have to know how to respect the difference. You know, every community. That's why Jersey City had to keep the pride and harmony so far over the many years as a priest. But that's up to you guys. But I'm going to strongly stand with the Councilman Richie Bojano. They remove that statue is not right things. Okay? So, I got not much to say other than that.
A couple questions based on what you guys just said. The first is, you know, if the exchange place that is going to be shouldering significant burden of the costs of the relocation, potential relocation, you know, is that memorialized anywhere, or is that something we can guarantee you, or is it any of the agreements before us?
This is the first legal document we have, so there's no. They haven't even finalized their plans for anything, so not yet. It's been verbally agreed to, so once we get it on paper, it'll be there.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple questions and follow up there. So, and that gets also to the you know, franchise agreement, right? You know, and just speaking honestly, you know, if this relocation is something I'm going to end up supporting, the thing that I thought was the most impactful was the idea that it would be a 99-year lease, right? And that as, you know, communities and people change and all of us in this room are not here, we could guarantee the statue's place on the waterfront. So how do we, you know, feel comfortable signing off on this ordinance without that language somewhere before us?
The language about the
99 years.
The 99 years at the place, yeah.
Once again, as I stated earlier, the agreement, based on, again, once our communications of the committee, which is the committee that gifted the statute to the city, is that as it stands currently, they are not looking for an ownership interest in the statute. They're not looking for a franchise agreement. They simply want the city's representation in the form of the ordinance, that it will be placed and it will remain. And again, like I stated before, again, a stewardship agreement, cooperation agreement between the city and the committee to maintain that statue, guarantee access to the statue for ceremonial purposes, and make sure it stays in good condition.
So we can't, but could we add it? For 99, because you want to make sure.
I think from my understanding.
So what you're saying is you want us to include.
You want to make sure it still stays.
In perpetuity.
Right. You want something stronger than an ordinance.
Well, the issue is right. My understanding, right, is that if we pass this ordinance, then it's relocated. But 10 years from now, 20, 30, 40, another council could come.
That can be worked into the agreement.
That you cannot change the. Okay. Correct. So, I mean, I when it was announced, this potential compromise, the 99 years was very prominent. So I'm trying to understand where that change is.
It's kind of like standard language in a franchise ordinance.
Okay.
So they could strike the words for 99 years and put in perpetuity.
So you could put that into this ordinance?
Yes.
And then it would be unamendable by future councils?
We would have
You could amend my ordinance, I guess, right?
But that's the chat, right, so then it doesn't.
You're amending something done by a prior ordinance.
Right, but there's nothing in that ordinance that says in perpetuity, and my point is in perpetuity simply a language of intent that you can change, or is it actually some legal, I understand the 99 years, I guess, deals with the law of perpetuity, so could we say 99 years and it would be unamendable for 99 years?
I think that becomes a little more challenging from a legal perspective because the city is maintaining possession of the statue itself. So without conveying an interest in the statute, it can be difficult to make the 99-year guarantee.
So is the franchise ordinance, wouldn't that convey the interest, then is that not on the table?
But then there are other complications that come along with the franchise ordinance, such as there is an application fee that has to be, there's a number of things that have to be done. There's an application, there's a plan that has to be put forth by the committee themselves.
Let me also help answer your question a little bit here, because the franchise ordinance was thought of because we thought that the committee wanted ownership. We thought we wanted to transfer ownership. But speaking to them again, it sounds like, look, we were gifted the memorial. The city should retain ownership because we also want to maintain it, because the committee didn't want to take full responsibility for maintenance either. So we said, okay, rather than gift it back, let's retain ownership, so you don't need a franchise. If we retain ownership, you don't need a franchise. What you do then is an agreement for stewardship, and if you want the perpetuity language to be in an ordinance, we can go back and talk about adding that here if that's important. We don't have to put the 99 year, but we can put in perpetuity or until. But of course, a future council can always come back and amend any ordinance. That's part of
This is a law. It doesn't matter who owns it. It should stay right where it is and be left alone.
Let James talk.
Because the franchise agreement would be, if the franchise agreement were signed for that length of time, future councils couldn't go back and take it because you're given the ownership right. They can?
Yeah.
You can go back and take away a franchise agreement?
Yes,
Okay.
with notice, yes.
Now, my understanding in part that it wasn't just going to be the committee that was party to it, but the consul general's office, or I don't know legally foreign nations, but obviously the embassy has. Is that some of the challenge here?
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. The prime, this is
one other thing. One other thing was, or two other things. Sorry. One is there possible to have our engineering department give us a report?
Sure.
On the site and the potential. Okay, and then I guess last is, if some of these things are still not, signed into law at this point, that we're still dealing with a lot of moving parts and pieces, from your perspective, the administration's perspective, is there we have to vote on this council, these next two sessions, is there an ability to take some time to answer some of these questions in more detail?
It's one of those things where, you have to put some things in place so the stakeholders know officially that this thing is going to go there. Then they could say, okay, now we feel comfortable putting our money behind this and that sort of thing. They don't want to go on a hunch kind of thing.
Before we discuss any part of this one, moving, not moving, first question we have to ask them, very simple question. As you mentioned to them, you don't even know they're going to build up the park. They just say they're going to build the park. We didn't see even their plan yet, right? No. So we didn't even see that. None of the council members see that their plan yet. Then we're going to remove one based on their plan. So their plan, really their plan require necessary to relocate the statue or not. But these council members not even see that they plan for, and you ask us that give us remove us. So I think that's wrong first. The first place to start is wrong because you guys have to convince it to us without remove the statue, they cannot build a park. You guys have proved to us, but you don't even, the plan not done yet. It's just a piece of rendering, and ask us to remove. I think there's something wrong here. You know what I'm saying? If you say based on our plan, definitely need to relocate the statue, then we city council discuss is right or wrong. But we don't even see that the plan. Just ask that we're going to remove. You guys can insert us all day, but don't do that like this one.
Is there a plan that when the work will start down here in Exchange Place? What date? Is we dealing with a timeline?
This is one of the pieces that needs to go in place before any of that can start moving forward.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rich.
The SIDs in the city. So there's no formal process or nothing that has to come before the council, or I guess they would have to go by the planning board before they start with any plans, right?
Yeah, no plans.
So after the plans approved by planning board, then ask us, because of based on our park plan, we must have to remove the relocated statue. But without those kind of plans, we're going to remove the statue first, then we all scratch our head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts here. Like I said before, that they're not willing to spend all this money to do all these plans if we're not gonna move the statue. So we want to make sure that this is something that can be done before we move down that road.
Then when they show the plan, we can. Oh, then listen, you guys amend your plan a little bit and keep the statue there as it is. So we have to can discuss. You know what I'm saying? But the exchange side just come to the mayor, text to us. We're gonna remove 100%. That's not fair. They have no respect to the community. That's what the problem posed.
So I'll get you some better drawings of the plans there. I'll get an engineering report for the new site.
So till we see and till we digest, maybe you withdraw 3Z, you know what I'm saying? Because you ask us without knowing that there are plans, park plans, and ask to introduce in this Wednesday. I think that's not fair to us because we have to give a time to make a suggestion as a council. Listen, your plan X, Y, Z, why don't you keep the statue, or it'll be changed a little bit this area to keep the statue. Something we can have in a conversation without it, and it's not fair.
What do you want? How do you want to go with this?
So I think
because there's more legal, parts involved.
I'm happy to. I'm going to say that because I just wanted to save it, folks. But do anyone want to have more questions before I? I wanted to get the questions done.
Right. Go ahead.
No, I have more emails here on stuff that's going to be exposed, and they're coming in like crazy. But one person wants to know. I'd like to see how the Exchange Place Alliance, I guess they're talking about the SID, can justify spending $500,000 in just 18 months, especially since they had no true and open meetings to approve such flagrant spending.
They have open meetings, and the winter too, they have to pay for their own snow removal, so this is a lot in there. I
We're-
got that in
we're not-
there
that's what I wanna
too.
know, that's what I wanna know.
You know,
We're not
I got that
addressing
in there
their
too, so.
budgetary-
Council.
Right,
Council
that's not now.
Council President.
We can certainly have that discussion at
Right.
another time, but that's not.
This one. With all due respects, Councilwoman Joyce Waterman, ask James Solomon, this is your district, you should say something first, but I think, let me correct this one. The statutes not just belong to Ward E, the statutes belong citywide, because of my district has a huge of the police community live in our district. So don't look at it as the issue is just Ward E issue. It's the issue is involved all citywide. So I don't want you that James Solomon's council Ward E, he should have the upper hand to discuss all this matter. I
You know
want
what
you to
I'm
make a
saying to
correct
you,
to
Michael,
that.
let me say this to you. Anytime you want to do something, whoever ward it is, you say, well, it's that council person's responsibility.
Sure, we respect
Now,
it.
okay,
But
so
you shouldn't
respect
say
this.
at the- on the record,
No,
you shouldn't
respect
say
this.
that.
Respect this too. It is his ward, he has some input in it too. You can't use it for your benefit when you want to.
What do you mean my benefit?
Right, when you want to use something for your benefit, when you want to say that it's Mary's ward, let her speak, you do that.
Oh, sure.
So this is James is the council ward, person for this ward, let him have his say. He has a right to have his say.
Yeah, he
And
said
that's
that.
what I'm saying. No, you're dominating all this conversation here. That's what you're doing, so let
Because we're
James
not
say.
dominating, we got
Yes, you
loud to
are.
say.
Yes,
Okay,
you
I'll
are.
say
Okay.
that.
Go ahead.
James.
I want to hear from him.
Councilman Solomon.
Sure.
Let him speak. Go
Sure.
ahead.
And I, I'll make just a couple comments and it is addressed to the audience as well. We'll have public hearing and many more chances for your input. So where I kind of, fall on this was when we started, my biggest concern was that a statute that was incredibly important to both Jersey City and the Polish community, that important parts of that community weren't being included in the planning process. Right? Now that has changed, right? That community brought in, that the Memorial Committee, right, and the Polish government have come to an agreement on what they think is a compromise. From my ward's perspective, and I represent both older community and the newer community, that having green space on the waterfront is something that is a positive. It is not something for people on the waterfront, it is for the entire city. When we did Enos Jones, we talked about how that park was for everybody, and everybody's gonna use it. And if you go to the waterfront on a Saturday night at Grundy Park, you'll notice it's not the tower people, it is the city at that park on a Saturday night. And so if the proposed solution is the statue can remain on the waterfront, and this is where the in perpetuity thing matters to me, that we could guarantee that this incredibly important part of our community was going to stay there for a very, very long period of time, and then you're talking about building two green spaces 2 blocks from each other that frankly serve each other. The more people that come to the waterfront, the more people that see the statue. That's positive. Where I guess my concern is, and this is getting into the details, is when the compromise was announced, the 99 years was a very prominent part of that. And if that's not something we can guarantee, and we're moving it a block away, but then 20 years from now, when the Polish community is even further away from Jersey City, then another council changes it, then that, and then it gets moved. That is concerning to me.
Yeah,
and so
we'll talk and we'll confirm that by.
And the perpetuity language can absolutely be incorporated.
So let's discuss, because it's the strength of the language, not just the existence of the language that matters.
Does it have any teeth? Is at the end of the day, right?
So we'll work on that. We'll circle up and get back to you.
That matters a great deal, because if this statute means a great deal to the city, and if we're not, we're sort of moving it, again, very quickly without all these documents being signed, and then 5 years later, it can be moved again, that would be very concerning.
It's our intention.
And as a baseline,
Right.
something that was provided.
Answer the question, Michael, please.
Something that was provided to the city given to the city as a gift over 30 years ago, and now the city is attempting in good faith to craft something that allows the committee to have an interest and a promise to keep it in its new location. It poses some challenges, but they can be overcome, certainly.
When it was announced that they're moving the statue, and then all of a sudden you have all the Polish representatives here and the head of the Polish Council General coming here saying, what the heck is going on? That's good faith? Then all of a sudden, behind closed doors, things change. Come on. And as far as I'm concerned, That statue and that waterfront belongs to everybody in Jersey City. As far as I'm concerned, it's not Ward E, it's not Ward F, it's not Ward C. It's everybody's ward. Leave the doggone statue alone
Okay.
and stay away from it.
We are lucky to have Brian Willis here. It's architecture, especially land, he don't want to say something, but this is what it is. That actually statue, if you use a base, how many square feet is a basement, the foundation? Maybe 10 to 10, 200 square feet, 200 square feet, right? That's 100 square feet. That large 100 square feet, how much they cost from the open space building? Can we build without touch the 100 square feet, without build open space? Are really that 100 square feet really they need to open space? Come on. You know, listen to me. They can build open space without touch their statues, so surrounding area. They're 100 square feet, they keep the space, they can do that. So show to us the plan. Without remove the statue, they cannot build open space. But there already is open space. They're missing part of the green. You understand? So the open space doesn't convince to us, they're already open space, you know? So please.
So he will get you the plans and then the language on 99-year in perpetuity. And then we'll go from there. Good? Thank you.
The language very much matters, just to me. I don't speak
Oh,
for the other aides.
it's
So-
assumed.
And I think, there's a number of pieces to make sure that this works, and so, gonna make sure that all this.
So then you gotta show to me that, they convince me that, yeah,
Michael,
okay?
that's not the point. The statue shouldn't be moved.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Dziękuję, dobranoc.
Okay.
Show up Wednesday night.
Okay.
Sign, get more people.
They can, the 100 square feet really bother.
By the way, 170 million, that's a crappy deal, sir.
I do not.
What's that?
Ken, you want to do medical center?
No.
No, what do you want to do next? EMS?
We-
Easy.
No, because
No,
we
what do you wanna do?
always
Okay.
try to get the staffers out of here first
okay.
as a courtesy to folks.
We do, Miss Sue's in the hallway.
Yes.
What's his name?
I haven't been able to grab an agenda.
That is not a naturally blonde Polish girl. Oh my God.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just think, we're getting started and it's 7 o'clock.
Okay. If you're leaving, please leave quietly. I will break it. Folks, if you work for us, stop breaking them on, Robert. Let them go.
Get him go. I'm saying goodnight.
I know, but they're staying because you're saying goodnight. No.
Oh, I'm prolonging this meeting now.
Okay, there's way too much chatter. Folks, pipe down. All right, can we have Andrew Conti, which item? Z5. Andrew Conti is a consultant contracted by the city with regard to this particular resolution. And it's the authorizing the award of a solar power purchase agreement with Onyx Development Group, LLC, in accordance with the recommendations set forth in the evaluation report dated May 18th for a solar energy system at the Jersey City Municipal Services Complex. Conti.
The city embarked on a process to run an RFP for a solar power purchase agreement at the municipal complex over at 1315 Linden Avenue. We successfully received 4 responses, 3 of which hung on all the way through evaluation. The evaluation team, which was comprised of members of the engineering office, business administrator's office, legal, myself as support, went ahead and interviewed each one of the respondents, evaluated the proposals, and it's come out that Onyx Renewables has the most beneficial and the strongest proposal, and therefore the evaluation team is recommending that the project be awarded to them and we move to finalizing the contract.
Council members?
You know, that the solar developer, they will fund installed own operator maintenance, but can we put you one more word? And your company do upgrade, because we give to 15 years long-term contract. You know, from the 15 years, the technology can be changed a lot. You know, the solar panel can be, now I just say any numbers. Current solar panel produce maybe 10 kilowatt per year, but can be 5 years later, you know, if we upgrade, they can produce 20 kilowatt per year. So your company gonna be actually total response for that, you know, actually fund the install, own, operate, and maintenance, but also.
He's not the vendor. So it's not my company, but the company you will award to will be responsible for all of those things. And the other item is, while I understand your concern about solar panels, kind of are subject to that same rule as computers. They get more efficient and smaller each year. That being said, though, just because there are more efficient ones on the market doesn't mean you're going to replace what you have. So the project will be for the panels they can install. I can tell you that right now they are Tier 1 manufacturers and the most highest capacity in the market that is reasonable to get for a project like this. We're around 320 to 350 watts per panel, depending on what panel they get, which is significant because 10 years ago when I started my career, we were talking about 185 watts per panel. We're not, we're around doubling that at this point. So I understand your concern, but they will be responsible for replacing like in kind, and if they can't find like in kind because it's their contract, they can do whatever upgrades they need to, but our power purchase agreement isn't going to obligate them to upgrade it just because the technology has gotten better.
Yes, so now the reason is I'm asking you that the company make based on commission or they fixed dollars? How they make the company?
This is similar to a real estate investment. They're going to put a lot of money up front to build the project, and then the project doesn't really have many operating moving parts or anything that's needed from it once it's on. At that point, it's just maintenance and maintaining the system so that it's running and operational with you. So their investment is entirely up front, and then after that, they're basically amortizing the cost over time based on the tax credits that they can receive, the SREC revenue that they would receive from this, SRECs being a performance incentive from the state, and the revenue from the power purchase agreement that you're providing them. So they're going to make one investment, and they're going to count over those 15 years in order to pay it off and make their profit that they've built into the project. And then from that point on, at year 15, you have the option to purchase it, and you can make whatever upgrades you would like to at that point or bring somebody else in. But for the life of the 15-year contract, that's going to be what's out there will be what's out there. They're not going to necessarily change it unless something breaks it.
To do that, we would have to put it back out all over again with a whole new parameter. And they would be completely hedging their bet as to whether the technology advances enough to make it worth it. It would likely price this completely out of worthwhile.
My only concern is that like 15 years is a very long-term contract. You know what I'm saying? So they only pay what do they call 0.05 of the nickel per kilowatt per, So yeah, and they only increase that the pay increase of 1.3% per year. You know what I'm saying? See, that's why over the 15 years, I think maybe you guys can make more and more money, you know. Not that job.
But yes, I understand
Yeah, yeah.
what your concern is. We modeled this based on your end, and your benefit also grows on the back end. So your price per electricity for that amount of electricity you're going to purchase from this system will start at 5.4 cents and then grow by the escalation rate over the 15 years. The panels themselves, once they're installed, will degrade. They'll produce less electricity by 0.5% each year for the following 20 years. So the way it works when we modeled this out is that you're going to get, we calculated a nominal saving of about $1.4 million with each year in the out, like 10 years, 11 through 15, kind of being around $100,000, if not more. And then your NPV, your current value of that money, around $915,000. So that being said, the benefit of the panels being in place will be shared by you as prices of electricity change in the future. The revenue that they're going to make will be fixed to whatever it is you're paying them. That won't change based on the electricity. So it's potential that you would see the larger benefit from this agreement than the developer would, depending on how market prices move with electricity. So
just in case, Ryan, business. So can we put the things in the contract? Access a property, if just have some property more than what we expect, they contribute some in the city of Jersey more.
That would change the entire contract. Yeah. That would change the bid number. So let me just throw, if I may throw a few numbers out. The co-op, Hudson County co-op number that we've been buying commodity electricity from for years now is approximately 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour. This is at, what is it, 5.5?
5 cents. 5.4, yeah.
5.4 cents per kilowatt hour. Just on the production. Your delivery is the same. PSE&G, we have to pay that difference in whatever that number is. Let's say it's 17 cents per kilowatt hour. 10.5 of that is PSE&G's rate to produce. We beat that by 1 cent, 9.5 with the co-op. You're now going to beat that by another 4 cents. $61,000 a year in savings just for the electricity that you normally would have paid for the MSC, Municipal Services Complex. You're going to save, in today's dollars, $61,000 a year. But you get the benefit of a cover in the back. But I guess the trade-off is that we're allowing them to use our property, property that we wouldn't be using for anything anyway. It's roof and overhead on vehicles that are parked.
The intention of a power purchase agreement is, if you remember from the first time I was here, is to insulate the city from much of the risk that's associated with solar, but to gain the majority of the benefit, which is what this proposal does. Now, SREC values are the only thing that could really change for the developer over time, and they could, if for some reason, see an enormous amount of profit on the back end on those, which the market for renewable energy credits is capped at this point by alternative compliance payment, which decreases over time. So the value of those SRECs will decrease over time. All that being said, the project is, it's not based on revenue share. None of the proposals we received included, and we left an option to ask them if they would, but none of the proposals we received included any type of revenue sharing from SRECs. Otherwise, the developer has their fixed costs built into these fixed incentive rates.
Some of the DPW buildings.
And the question is that when you install the solar panel on top of the roof, they sometimes hard to maintain the roof. Sometimes they protect the roof with have some from the direct sun, So when you have like the roof issue, who's going to be, how are we going to be maintained?
So the vendor will be required prior to installation to have approval of the warranty holder for the roof, to install the system. Once they've installed the system, they need them to come back out and post-inspect the installation and say that it still complies with the warranty, and then we'll provide it. Any problem that's caused by the solar panels will be the solar panel purchase agreement provider's responsibility. Any problem that's caused by normal wear and tear or something that the city has done by accident would become part of the city's responsibility. So it's the same as any other.
That word in the contract, right?
That will be in the contract.
Not all of the area that's being used to generate is going to be on roofs. A lot of it is on those white beams that you see now. We left them up, or the city left them up at the time that the construction was going on. They existed before the buildings existed. Okay, so do you know what the percentage breakdown is? How much is on the beams and how much is on the roofs? I might put you on the spot.
Maybe. Hold on.
But I do mean to put you on the spot.
I know you are. It's not 50/50. There's more, considerably more on the canopy. There's about a megawatt, just under a megawatt, 930-something kW on the canopy system, and on the roof system, there's another probably 200, 300 kW, somewhere in that area. So the system is mostly on the canopy roof, not on the roof of the
When he says the
facility.
canopy roof.
The steel beams.
They're going to install corrugated steel on the beams to bridge the gap between them and then lay the panels in.
So just to make sure that our roof costs a fortune to protect, you know what I'm saying? And the warranty and the guarantee the roof doesn't,
Warranty will remain in place for this
Fine.
project. It's a requirement for the vendor.
Brian said, he said yes.
Okay.
I got no further question then.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda, is Linda here? Hi, Linda. Linda has 10Z11. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Lenovo US Inc. for the purchase and delivery of Think Center computers under state contract for the Department of Administration, Division of Information Technology.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to represent information technology, and this particular resolution is actually a continuation of a project that we started in 2017. And the project is to replace all the PCs for all the civilian workers, not police or fire. Now, you might ask, well, why are we doing that? Because the PCs age, there's better equipment out there, but here's the other reason. The other reason is the PCs that we have now are leased. They're leased by Dell. The lease is now ending. We need to return those items. We need to make sure that we do an inventory of everything, return them, and once they're returned, we're going to be replacing them with the new PCs from Lenovo. Now, back in 2017, this project commenced. We have already purchased 400 PCs, and we've installed them in various places. The annex is one building that got new PCs, maybe the mayor's office, and so on and so forth. But to complete the project, as I said, we have already purchased 400. We need to purchase actually another 400, and that would cover the whole base of all the users throughout the city. So what we're asking now is for 100 of those PCs to be purchased, and then we'll only have 300 more to go. And one thing that I'd like to point out in doing this is our director, Ms. Bernadette, has a strategy to save money in doing this. And the strategy is that if you buy PCs at different levels, for example, let's say one is level 5, that's the highest. You would give the level 5s to workers that need real demand on their PCs, depending on what they're doing. You know, if they're running payroll or if they're doing a lot of calculations. And then you'd have other PCs we're purchasing that are maybe level 1, and they're less money, so we're saving money by buying those, and we're giving those out to users that maybe sometimes are out in the field doing inspections, and they don't need the PC all the time. They don't need that high powered PC. But what happens is now you've purchased them, you don't need to give them back, and as time goes by, again, like anything with computers and electronics, you know, new brands come out, new features come out, more power comes out. But by buying these PCs in certain levels, we can take the level 5s away from our managers, our people who need that high power, take that PC away and give it to the person who had the level 1. By now, the level 1 is kind of chugging around, and you see the circles going around and around. But they will get the level 5 from the manager, even though it's 4 or 5 years old. But to them, it's a new PC, and they're going to love it. And then the manager will get a brand-new PC, and they're going to love it. So we are going to satisfy two users for every one PC that we purchase as we go further down the line. You know, this is Bernadette's strategy. I think for saving money, it's a solid strategy. And the bottom line is we do have to return those PCs to Dell, the ones that we leased. So that's what this is about.
Any questions for that?
No? Yeah, how much are we paying for the lease? And when does it expire?
Well, I don't have, I can get the information for you on how much we pay for it, but here's the thing on that. And as you can imagine, well, let's say we had about approximately 800 users, civilian users, and so we leased 800 or 700 at that time. And so then what happened is, as we hire more people.
I'm going to jump in and ask you, just provide him the lease information.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
She'll get
that. Yeah, no problem, yeah. Okay, thanks so much.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you. Carmen, you're up. Carmen has 10G. Carmen has a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing program contracts under the Community Service Block Grant, CSBG, for program year January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. Take it away, Carmen.
Warned Millie the other day that this was on the agenda so she could get to the POs.
So I think the POs were submitted and handwritten in, I believe.
No, we don't have them.
Don't have them.
Yeah, well, Millie got the word last Wednesday instead of tomorrow.
Okay.
So, the resolution that you have before you is the contracting reso. The reso that was presented earlier in the year was the authorizing of submission of the resolution. This is our contract with DCA in order for the community development to administer the CSBG grant. The funding that you see here, or the allocations that you see here before you, were RFP'd out last year. And so ultimately, the way the DCA contracts its funding is initial installment amounts. And so this is the contracting installation resolution for the CSBG grant, the Community Services Block Grant, not the HUD entitlement grants, which are the other block grant funding that I'm scheduled to meet with you in the next couple weeks to come to review. Different fiscal calendar, different grant.
Okay, any questions for Carmen?
Yeah, you talked to Great about their funding from this program?
Great for CSBG?
Yes. The Plus?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, because, I mean, maybe we can have a long conversation offline. They had some concerns with some of the programmatic requirements related to CSBG versus CDBG.
So they did, so this happened, a meeting that happened last year in regards to what the requirements were and that they could not meet those reporting requirements. So they applied under CDBG Public Service and moved some of those grant dollars on allocation. I more recently had a TA session with Reverend Worm and her staff. They reapplied. You'll see that in this coming year's grant application. So understand that these dollars are from last year's budget. Because of the delay in funding, this is what you're seeing here in regards to contracting it out. But I have met with them. I'll forward you the email chain.
Let's just have a conversation about where they're at when it comes to this. Just because, without taking up the whole meeting, I think we can just talk because I know they have some issues. I'll get up to speed on where you guys are with it.
Yep. No.
Okay.
Applied.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you, Carmen. All right, and then Rob Luckritz, I'm doing you a solid here. Get up. This is 10Z3. It's a resolution ratifying the award of a contract to the Jersey City Medical Center to provide basic life support ambulance services. This is the renewal of a 1 year renewal of a three.
This is the first year renewal after a 5-year RFP contract, yeah.
Which one is it?
Z3. So 3 years have expired on the contract, and this is the 1 year renewal, and there's an option for a 2nd year renewal.
3 years?
Rob, you want to take it away?
More than 3 years, yeah. All right. Crazy.
Want to introduce yourself? Doing public.
Sure. My name is Rob Lukritz. I'm the Vice President of Operations and the Executive Director of EMS for Jersey City Medical Center. Thank you, Council President and members of the Council. Our Business Administrator here who asked me to come down and just speak a little bit about the past 3.5 years and kind of a little bit about EMS. I'll try to be brief. I know it's the meeting is running late. Again, let me start. This is National EMS Week, so this is particularly an apropos week for me to be here. I'm very excited to be able to be here and celebrate EMS Week with you all. The EMS department in Jersey City Medical Center has been around for a very long time. We're the oldest and longest serving EMS department in the state of New Jersey, something that was just confirmed to me by the Department of Health. Jersey City is blessed to have an organization that prides itself in providing the absolute best possible EMS care and the best possible pre-hospital care. It's a AAA accredited agency that's been nationally recognized a number of times through national awards and recognition through various trade journals. It's something that Jersey City considers a core business to its institution. Everything about healthcare is what we pride ourselves in. We pride ourselves in making sure that the patients in Jersey City, whether it's in an ambulance or in a hospital, are getting the absolute best possible care. And everything for the most critically ill patients very often starts in an ambulance, and that's why this is so important to the Jersey City Medical Center, as your local trauma center, as your local tertiary care center, to make sure that the patient care starts in the ambulance and that they get the best possible patient care so that they can get the best possible outcomes. Just a few tidbits for you so I can give you some snapshots of what we've done over the past 3 to 4 years, just in this limited time in our last iteration of this contract. We continue to ensure that we have the lowest possible response times in the nation. We have an average response time for life-threatening emergencies of about 4.5 minutes, which is well below the national average of 7 to 8 minutes, sometimes 9 in some areas. We've continued to increase our cardiac arrest survival rate here in Jersey City. We've always made that a priority for us, but in this last iteration, we were running about 62% cardiac arrest survival back in 2014. It's now 82%. We've done that despite a 30% increase in EMS volume over the past 3 to 4 years, which is an astounding number and is a testament to the growth and influence of Jersey City. With that 30% increase, we've continued to increase our staffing models, increase our infrastructure, and invest in the EMS services here in Jersey City. And we've done it all at no cost to the city of Jersey City. All costs are borne onto the medical center, whether it's our staffing, our benefits, our infrastructure, our ambulances, dispatching, and all of the like. We continue to pride ourselves in being a key component of the outreach campaign at the medical center. The medical center is an entity, it's a nonprofit entity that's owned by the citizens of Jersey City, and we work diligently to make sure that we continue our outreach. We do over 2,500 CPR trainings annually, so in the past 4 years we've trained over 10,000 residents of Jersey City in CPR, which I think is astounding. We continue to promote efforts like Pulse Point, where we have citizen-involved CPR alerts on their iPhones, as well as programs like United Rescue, which you all are very familiar with, where we train local lay people in advanced first aid and provide them with the resources they need through a philanthropic grant that we get through our partners with the United Hatzalah of Israel. We train the students in the public schools. We have a partnership with Dickinson High School that we're looking to grow, where we're willing to train seniors who want to become EMTs and provide them with those resources and training through our EMT program to give them the true skill sets that they need in order to be employed when they get out of high school. That's a continuation of efforts that have been started in other programs, whether it's the Great Futures Charter High School, the Union City High School, Bayonne High School, and others. And we look to grow that program here in Jersey City. And let's not forget the Hudson County School of Technology, of course, which is in Jersey City, which is another partner of ours. We continue to partner with the city with the opiate epidemic, working with the law department, working with others and the local prosecutor and state police in order to make sure that we provide them the data and the resources they need in order to tackle that epidemic. And with that, we continue to provide data as necessary through the health department and others, as we consider ourselves a repository of public health data that can truly help to make the residents of Jersey City, and Jersey City as a whole, a healthier community. And that's why the medical center is a strong partner in healthier Jersey City and the city health department. And with that, I will open up to questions. I know I tried to make that as brief as possible. I can tell you that the medical center is committed to providing EMS to the city. We're committed to providing the best possible EMS to the residents of Jersey City. We consider ourselves one of the best in the country. We've been recognized nationally. We've had numerous organizations that have recognized that we truly do put the patients of Jersey City first. And I open that to... There's an open dialogue here. I think I know everyone here in this room, and I encourage you all to reach out to me, as many of you do on a regular basis, in order to help us find ways that we can make the residents of Jersey City better and provide you better quality pre-hospital care.
Any questions for Rob? Just quick questions.
Just very simple. When we City of Jersey, first time when we contracted the Jersey Medical Center about to provide BLS service, ambulance service, at the time, Jersey City do that the first response, right? At the time, Jersey City Medical Center, instead of paying money to City of Jersey City, they're going to provide some kind of training service. Our firefighter or police, like a CPR, and also basic life support to the firefighters also. But a couple of weeks ago, fire department asked for training around $30,000, training for the basic life support training to the outside of the vendors from the Jersey City Medical Center. Why? Because
It's not wrong. So noted for
Yeah.
ABA.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Because one hospital, one care point, whatever, at the time they willing to pay $1 million a year City of Jersey City, but Jersey Medical Center provide over the years great service. Nobody can beat. That's why even though they're not offer money to City of Jersey City, that people want to go to Jersey Medical Center, the service, ambulance service. At the time, then question to rise, we in Jersey City going to provide the first response, you know what I'm saying? But now at the time, that what is the first response service? You're going to do that for us. So one of the items they're going to train our firefighter, police, CPR, basic life support like ambulance, the technician, EMS technician, kind of support training. But today, like a month ago, instead we trained our firefighters to your place, we hired other third-party vendors training our
Rob
firefighters.
couldn't answer that, so I think the VA needs to look into that and see
Yes,
if...
please, okay?
Yeah.
But more to the point of the question about, is the provision of training services part of this contract for us?
Yes.
Okay.
So, as part of this contract, we provide training to all of the fire department and any other public safety entities as the city or others would choose. We provide them with first responder training and CPR training, which sometimes is called basic life support. I think there may be a nomenclature difference there. We provide CPR and first aid and first responder training at no cost to the city as part of this contract for any public safety entity, whether it's the fire department, police department, sheriff's department, or others that would like to get that training. And the refresher course, yes.
Can you provide us with a report on the number of trainings over the past 3 years, first 3 years of the contract? Okay? Yeah.
We just want to make sure that you deliver what you promise, okay? That's what we get a report on 3 years service calls.
And any sort of summary data about that?
Yes, I can provide all of that.
That'd be great.
What I can tell you is, that, as I mentioned before, we've seen a 30% increase in our BLS volume, which is tremendous and is a testament, and I can certainly break that down for you in any way that you would like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope. Thank you, Bob.
For Brian, renewal was January 1st, and obviously we're in May. Can you help me understand the timeline?
I only started in April.
Understood.
So I'm just going back through some things to try to
Understood.
catch up.
I called Brian and asked him what happened. Is there an extension? I said, did this thing expire already?
Okay.
Yeah,
Where are we
yeah.
at?
Okay.
So this will retroactively begin January 1st.
Understood.
And then we need to renew it again next January 1st.
Okay.
Or not.
As I say, do we have intention at this point to go out for bid again or to renew, once?
Well, I guess theoretically. the
6,
council
7
could
months
say
from now?
No, we're firmly behind the medical center on this. So unless the council wants to go out to an RFP again, that's an option, but we would prefer to stay where we are. Yeah.
The fourth year.
If you want to see ugly, try to do that again.
But this is not fun enough, It's got 2 a.m. is when I want to get home. Yeah, 2 a.m.
We're talking about 80% anything.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Brian Weller. Brian has 10Z7. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Communications for the purchase, delivery, and installation of security cameras at the Apple Treehouse, for the relocation of the Division of Cultural Affairs and EDC, project 2018-003.
So, good evening, Council. Let me keep this kind of short and to the point. Apple Treehouse is a nationally listed facility. It is an asset to the city, but the city is responsible for maintaining it. It was broken into 3 times before now it's occupied, and I feel like it's in the city's best interest to make sure that there's full coverage, which there is. This system does coordinate and integrate with public safety. There is an alarm system there, yes, and the police do respond, but usually the damage is already done by the time they get there. This is a video surveillance system that will provide full coverage, front and back, without needing to go to historic preservation because we didn't let them touch the house. They're able to provide coverage without touching the house from nearby poles, and as well as providing security to the new employees and staff that are going to be located at the site at all sorts of hours, potentially. So it's pretty important. I'm sorry?
So, I mean, who watched the cameras? Simple.
The police.
Safety, yeah.
Public
Yeah,
safety.
the
Greg Keir says
CCTV
it's tied into the CCTV system.
Yeah.
Specifically, yes.
Yep.
So they connected to CCTV system?
Yes.
Yep.
But
Okay, any questions?
we discussed it later on the.
Pretty straightforward. Brian?
I want to be clear about this on one thing, is that I know we talked about other CCTVs and had concerns, but knowing that it's been broken into already, just, it was necessary to get this
Yeah, it
done.
was an urgent
Yeah.
thing for us, yeah.
No, we allocated the 2018, what do they call, the capital into dollar, around $250,000 for the camera in the car, so it's there. So we'll see.
Wasn't working with the murder.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, I think some of that.
Around the $250,000.
Did we go out to, what do you call it?
Capital budget?
No, we did the capital budget, but did we put them on the market or whatever?
Oh, no, not yet, not
Not
yet.
yet.
That's coming soon. Yeah.
So we still have some way to go
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah. It'll probably be end of June before we get the money.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thanks, sir.
Matt Ward,
That's unfair.
you've got 3B. Is he here? Oh, you snooze, you lose.
Zero. Andrew Riccio. Ah.
Andrew Barca, Division 0 team. Come on up.
Thanks for coming.
We have 10Z4 and 3F. Which order do you want to take them? Z4, 10Z4. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a competitively bid contract to Tool Design Group LLC for consulting services needed for the development of the Jersey City Vision Zero Action Plan.
Good evening, council members. As you're aware, in February of 2018, there was an executive order adopting the Vision Zero initiative for the city. The executive order created a goal for Jersey City to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries on city roads by the year 2026. It also established a Vision Zero task force and tasked us with the creation of an action plan within 1 year of the date of that adoption. Since then, in March of 2018, this council approved a resolution for competitive contracting in order to solicit those services. On April 4th, an RFP was released. 3 proposals were received on May 1st. Since then, the selection committee has reviewed the proposals and has selected Tool Design Group. This was the proposal that was ranked the highest by the greatest number of members in the selection committee. Tool Design Group has extensive experience creating Vision Zero action plans in cities like Denver, Boston, Portland, Seattle. It's a very highly qualified team, and we feel confident it's the best suited to create Jersey City's Vision Zero action plan. And the total contract amount is $189,430, and it will be funded through a capital account, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, council people?
So the planning services, what include, what is not included?
Work includes extensive data collection for us to understand if there is anything we're missing based on just data we've been reviewing within the different divisions. So the whole point of Vision Zero is to understand the systems and the patterns that are causing fatalities and severe injuries. So lots of data collection. They will give us performance measures in order to make sure that every year past this year, we're staying on track, and what metrics we're using to measure whether or not we're staying on track. There will be an extensive communications and branding strategy so that residents understand why we're committing to this and what it entails. And in the end, we will basically get an action plan which gives us strategies and specific actions we need to be taking every year in order to achieve the goal of 0 deaths and severe injuries by 2026.
And if I could just add to that, a lot of the hours will be spent mapping thousands of crash records over the past 10 years so that we could create a high injury network so that we can more effectively choose where we're making investments. Another product of this will be the creation of an interactive website where the public can access those records as well as submit any requests that they might have. And just speaking to the community outreach aspect of it, their proposal outlined a minimum of 7 public outreach events.
So the action plans include the recommendation of this, right?
Correct.
So where the places should we have a trip light? Where the place have the plastic sticking in the ground, whatever they call it? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's so and so that they recommended to, right?
Yes.
So do me a favor, when you're done, the city council can have a copy of that, some kind of executive summary, you know, the recommendation.
Absolutely.
You know.
I actually like a copy of the whole proposal. Could get that?
Yeah,
I'd be very interested to see that, yeah.
Okay.
Looks great to me, though.
I got no question.
Anyone else have questions? None? Okay, your next item is 3F.
So 8 months is the things.
So what?
When is it able to be finished that year?
And I just want to...
Yeah, it's an 8-month contract term.
When is going to be finished that year, completed that year?
So we are targeting early February to present the final action plan, February 2019, to present the action plan to this council.
All right, 3F is an ordinance.
You want to introduce us? You have some new staffers, right? Are they with you?
Yeah, I just
Yes.
wanted to introduce our assistant traffic engineer for those who haven't met her, Jennifer Cato.
Is the proposal in the package? Yeah, yeah.
3F is an ordinance designating 165 feet as no parking during school days on Nelson Avenue. This is adjacent to the charter school that's at the intersection of Nelson and Cambridge. This ordinance comes essentially out of a group effort that Councilman Yun headed with input from the community and his office and also my office, in addition to several days of observations at the school. And we feel that this is necessary in order to create a safer pick-up, drop-off environment adjacent to this school, which has a long track record of significant safety issues along Nelson Avenue, resulting from double parking adjacent to the school.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. But because of this ordinance, weeks late because it was vacation, you know, when I get the phone call. But so this is very great, you know, and also I had a meeting with the Hudson County traffic engine department because with this one we try to change the timing and traffic light Congress and Kennedy Boulevard. Right. You know, so if we there work together, probably people see the difference in that area. So thank you for your effort. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, we've got, we did Barca. Matt is back?
Yes.
All right. Matt has 3B.
Good evening, Council. Would you like me to read the ordinance in? All right. Ordinance to the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting amendments to the Morgan Grove Marin Redevelopment Plan regarding standards and requirements of the Community Benefit Bonus on Block 11508. So we're 2 blocks here from the Grove Street Pass Station in the Morgan Grove Marin Redevelopment Plan. This is a plan amendment. There has been public outreach that's gone into this effort and did receive the support from the Harsmans Cove Neighborhood Association. This is limited to paragraphs that outline the standards of the Block 11508 Community Benefit Bonus. In this plan, that was adopted in May 2015, so this is just minor amendments to that bonus. To go over it, it's attached to the ordinance. Working with staff, the requester of the amendment, and with the community, it's agreed that that we put in a dwelling unit max of 507 dwelling units. Also a minimum dwelling unit size that's specific to the community benefit bonus 11508. And there was also, this was recommended unanimously, but there was a small floor amendment by the planning board to change a may to a shall if you look at 9F down there. Also, I missed that there's a slight increase of the tower square footage from 11,000 to 12,000 square feet. And just some design and fenestration standards. These were fairly straightforward in nature and received, I believe that they got proper sign-off by the community and staff supports them.
Any other questions? No, thank you, Matt. And now we move on to Ms. Goodman, Director Goodman. She has 10Z21 and 10Z19.
I forgot to ask you that Nelson Avenue, how will you attend the meetings of the, yeah, you was there, right? Nelson Avenue, talk about the change in 730. Can we wait the 20 days period because they need as soon as possible?
It's already in effect, but yes, we could waive it. Put a resolution in to waive it for the next council meeting because it'll take two readings to pass.
We could dress something up for it, just a matter of demonstrating the need.
Yeah. Okay, Director Goodman.
Hello, here talking about the Freedom and Fireworks Festival coming up for July 4th. We're really excited about it. This year it will be at Exchange Place, and the whole day festival is geared towards families all day with food truck village and a carnival and performances. And we're really looking forward to it, and everything's coming together for that. To this end, we are looking to contract to the Exchange Place Alliance for the carnival portion of the festival. That is going to be a savings to us as the city. They're going to take on the carnival in one of the lots downtown and run it not just for July 4th, but through the weekend as well, since July 4th falls on a Wednesday. So. In the past, it's been about $90,000.
Does that factor into your budget for this year?
No. That's why we had put it out to try and get some bids for it, and we got no responses. Put them out twice.
Your budget under, what's that line that we were looking at today, unclassified celebration of, was that part of the 350, was it 350,000?
No, it wasn't, yeah. We were trying to keep to $39,900, which is what we spent last year, but the carnival was really not what we wanted it to be. We really struggled to find a vendor that was really up to par and what our residents deserve, and so, yeah, that's what we were trying to do. It was down at Liberty State Park. Well, there was a lot of feedback in terms of the ease of access and being able to disperse really easily after the event as well. Also, we've been able to, we'll have 2 fireworks displays, and one will be off the 2nd Street Pier, and so we thought that would be a wonderful advantage as well to allow additional viewing areas up the Hudson River, which would be great too. So parks and other viewing areas like Riverview Park, you'll be able to have a good viewing place.
Visit. This will be the last year that Mount Carmel has fireworks.
Really?
Yeah.
So can I ask a quick question? So 10Z19, we're going to give the contract with this firework company $145,000 for 22 minutes. So now, I remember that this company, they provide service almost 3-4 years now, right? And the first time when we started around to charge $90,000. So now, over the past 3 years, the price went up to $90,000 to $145,000. And instead we bid, we look at it as a special contract called, this is a fireworks, a creative in character. So can you explain to me, just excuse me, one is creative in character and recognize the field of artistic things, so 2, artistic, character. You use 2 items to weigh the public bid for the firework. So now, can you explain to me that character and the artist, how they different than other firework company? If you not explain that part of it, 1st of July firework is gone. Because when I look at it, $135,000 we spend without public bidding, that's a serious issue. So explain to me how this company is different than other firework companies. Character-wise, artistic-wise. Tell me now. I'm ready to hear.
Well, this is my first year as director here, so I can say that what I do know of the company is that they are world-class and that we do recognize them as creating a top-of-the-line experience and something that our residents have come to expect and to celebrate. As a visitor myself in the past, I can say that the experience was phenomenal and that it's one that we've continued to see an increase in people coming out for July 4th because the numbers have been growing year by year, and we estimated about 120,000 people to come out this past year. So I think we could see, by the way the public receives this, that it has had an impact. It's created destination, a sense of pride, and quite a lot of excitement around.
Character. This company created character, something other company created. Can I show the pictures? And it's something we got to show to us so we understand, yes, this character, firework, nobody can create other than this company. Show to me.
Well, are we talking about the character of the business?
The resolution reads that it's not going out to bid because there's the character, creative in character and a recognized field of artistic endeavor. It's original.
Excuse not proud the bid, public bid. So now you have to, your duties explain to me. Yes, reason, okay, good, reason. So 2 reasons to off the hook from the public bid. So you gotta explain to us that this city council convinced us that what kind of character this company, something creative, none of the other firework company cannot create it. Artistic creative, some firework, something, none of the company able to do that. This is the only one company, so that's why we're going to go XYZ company. So show us any pictures, any work, so we can agree with you that $135,000 is a lot of money. And the go out, yes.
Be happy to send that to you. Yeah.
Can you provide us?
Sure.
All the council members know that.
The largest fireworks display company in the world, possibly. I can't remember the stat on that. And it's
Right, and so, and it's a large display that we're doing, and it's technical because it's in the middle of the river with lots of current. So there's only a handful of companies that can do this, period. One of the others is doing it in New York. So there aren't a lot of companies to choose from, and it's a tough thing. And there's not a lot of precedent. You can't just ask someone to give a low bid on this and just let them take a barge out in the river.
So not many companies can do firework in the middle of the ocean, fine. In the middle of the river, fine. Then it's not many companies from those not many companies, we should go public bid, get some selected price, you know what I'm saying? So now my bothering me is that 3-4 years ago, we only pay $90-some thousand, and 3 years later, when the price went around 30% more, then I start scratching my head. You know what I'm saying? So the Robert can say every year he's getting better. Show me how they're getting better every year to off the hook the public bid, okay? That's what your duty, right? So before this Wednesday, please share with all the input this council so we know that yes, character-wise, artistic-wise, their job is very creative, nobody can do in the world. When I see that they're firework in the pictures, we know that, you know what I'm saying? This is everybody can do it. Then they should be proud of it. Probably this is the last one. Go as a professional service can go to the company, but next year it shouldn't be happening. So show to us, okay? That's what I'm doing.
Just justify the increase.
Yes.
Sure.
Because the price
Justify
increase
that
is so much.
increase, why?
All right?
Christine, does New York City have the fireworks?
They're on the other side.
Yes. Yeah.
So he just say right, because of the more people join that, not because of their work, can be, you know what I'm saying? So we like to see it, all right?
Thank you. I have you a question. I know I've done the 4th of July at Liberty State Park, and Exchange Place last year was great. I appreciated it being there. But if we put a park down there on Exchange Place, will this be the last year we do the fireworks there? Can we still do the same concerts and everything else? Because I know it was a big stage and everything else. Will we still be able to accommodate 4th of July and things like that?
Well, that's a great question.
Councilman, and I'm happy to explore that once we see what that is and what it looks like and what the hurdles are.
Yeah. Maybe he can answer. And
It's my understanding that they want to celebrate stage, isn't it?
Is they gonna build the stage
I
or
can
what?
get you the full.
The intention of that new park is that there's a big public gathering area with ability to put up a stage. Yeah, that's the intention.
Okay.
Almost there.
Is Sammy here?
Sammy's not here. It was a tree thing. No, all right. Sammy's
Okay,
here.
we'll skip that, I guess, and then Steve, you're up. Steve has 4 items, folks. 4 items. 10U.
The New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority is giving us $1,000 to buy some trees.
Ask him more, $10,000.
They offered $1,000. We'll take it.
Okay, any questions on 10U? Great. 10Z8.
10Z8 is the, quote, auction of the cars. Council President, we had a meeting this morning that you were at concerning this whole issue.
So as FYI, we passed the ordinance that amended the impounds, and so at a meeting this morning with representatives from DPW and Division of Commerce, trucking, towing representatives, and the impound itself, there'll be an ordinance walked on to amend the effective start date of the ordinance itself. Technically it's already in effect. May 15th was the effective date, but the RFP hasn't gone out and things like that, and so the operators, the impound operators, and the towing companies are all confused as to what rules are in effect and what their rates are and so forth. And so we're going to kick the can down the road and put the effective date at some date, ideally the date that the contract is awarded, something to that effect.
Yet another ordinance
A
for this
walk-on,
meeting?
yeah.
Thank you.
It's an emergency.
And this is response to Sims Metal?
Sims Metal, yeah.
Okay,
Just to clarify a little bit, the bid specs has been primarily done for about a year. We're tweaking it now that the ordinance passed, but we couldn't put the bid out before the ordinance. Now the ordinance is done, and it can't really go into effect until the bid is awarded. So it's kind of a long-about way to say there's a couple more of these resolutions for the auctions that are going to wind up coming in the next couple of months before we get to that point.
Today, we have a revenue hearing, budget hearing. At the time, Councilman James Salom bring up the issue, one of the unclassified items for auction supply $1.2 million. He want to know that $1.2 million, where they're going to spend, you know what I'm saying? So we need those kind of the document, and not only him and myself, everybody need that, where they're going to spend $1.2 million of supply.
Office services is the category.
What
That counts with the security guard contract. Well, there's several big items in it. The security guard contract, the copier paper, the copier's lease, the moving company comes under that category.
Yeah, we had talked to John Metro about like providing that in more detail.
Yeah.
I think the concern was if we're spending a lot on the copier contract for paper and for copiers.
Right.
But if you look through each individual department's budget, there's also a lot of money for ink, particularly copier ink, which I think is their own personal printers, but you know, potentially that's a cost savings there. So we just wanted to break down.
Right, what we had planned to do, we hope to do, the contract for the copiers is up around October. So the police department, who have been using the copiers, which are black and white copiers for the last 5 years, now they just determined they have to do reports in color, which they didn't have color copiers. So the proposal was to replace those particular divisions with a color copier and eliminate their color printers. The ink you're talking about is for their printers. Primarily in the police budget, especially, they spent $90,000 last year on ink for the color printers because of this change from the state in requiring them to do things in color. So hopefully, when you get the contract resolution towards the end of this year, you'll see additional color copiers and elimination of color printers, especially in police department.
All right. We've got next item, 10Z13.
10Z13 is the contract for the trees from the grant that we received. This was supposed to come on a couple of meetings ago. There was an issue about the bid being too high, so we rebid it twice. And now what we're doing, it's an open-end contract. We will spend the amount of money that's allowed in the grant. We can't spend more because the grant was limited. And we'll use this contractor to provide those trees.
Any questions? We're done. 10Z14.
10Z14 is the company that does the servicing for the 3 pools once a month. It's basically a renewal of the previous one, and it needed a resolution because it's over the pay-to-play amount. Next year, they'll probably have to go to public bid because it'll be right over the $40,000 threshold. This year, it's like right under it. So we've got one more year where we can do this without bidding. And that's it.
Okay, that's it?
Yep.
The executive session. Thank you.
Excuse me, we just want to make sure that this company provides service for person built swimming pool, and their servicing is not satisfy us. Okay, so just to let you know. Okay. Poles and also so we not have Councilman which we and myself we visited twice with the public the DPW. Somehow they provide services not provided.
Okay, I'll have Sammy reach out to you, Councilman. He's the one in charge of that. You can tell him what the issue is because they're basically the only company at this point, so. Okay.
Okay. I have one, thank you. All right, so we've got a walk-on for Wednesday night. It's a resolution authorizing the council to hold a closed session. Oh, why are we doing it at 12 noon?
I thought that was the requested time, but we can modify the time.
No,
Where's convenient
right
for
before the
it's
council
fine with
meeting.
me.
Yeah, it should be like, what,
5 o'clock.
It's fine. Okay.
5 o'clock?
So this will be amended to have a closed session on Wednesday, right, Monday, June 11th, at, 5 o'clock, so the caucus at 5:30. Shouldn't take more than half an hour, right?
Should not.
Okay. So 5 o'clock on Monday, June 11th.
With the resolution on this for tonight is being withdrawn, so I could properly brief you at the, Z18 is being withdrawn, and we're going to executive session, so I could properly brief you on the matter at that time. Or closed session, I should say, excuse me.
So Z18, if you remember, was the, just for,
Corporate calls.
Well, I'm the first assistant, but I'm here right now.
When they discuss that item, we just want to make sure you provide us that a little more detailed, itemized information. Who was involved there, and what it is, and what law firm actually represented who. And if we have any internal email between City of Jersey and the law firm, they should be at least provide these things, because the amount they charge is out of control, seems like to me, okay? So we got more some detailed information we be able to provide, not only just the outline of the issue, okay?
Okay.
All right.
That's why we're going into closed caucus.
but it will be in closed session because there's confidentiality matters related to this. Okay? Let's see. Anything else you want to tackle first? You want to do your obscenity ordinance?
Real quick.
Do that.
3A is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 21 Contracts and Investments, Article 1, Contracting Authority of the Jersey City Municipal Code, requiring that the hiring of freelance workers for services of $500 or more by persons engaged in commercial or business activities within the City of Jersey City by written contract specifying the time and manner of payment.
Okay, questions, council? This is submitted by the administration.
Is he specifying or specifying? Specifying. Didn't sound right. Okay, we did B, now we're to C, the pornography and obscenity ordinance.
This one.
Oh, he's putting his glasses on. He's putting his glasses on.
Let's let Councilman Solomon.
Council on it. Is he still here or did he take off? He left?
He stepped out, but I'm fully briefed on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess I'm happy to kind of walk through, where we ended up with this and get people's feedback and questions. And I know there are legitimate questions that have been raised, but also try to walk through kind of where this came about. So as you guys recall, back in March, a letter was sent to FM, the restaurant, prior to the burlesque show at the restaurant. And it sort of cited the municipal code and said, well, you potentially are going to violate the code, but it also mentioned the state code, and things got confusing at the time. And one of the commitments that I made to the performer was to look at our existing code and to see how we could amend it into what I thought was the best version possible. And my thought was, this hasn't been looked at for 30 years. And it's probably not going to be looked at again for another 20, 30 years. So let's try to make it as, forward-looking and forward-thinking as possible. So I think from my view, and I'm happy to get into the specifics, but it does primarily three things. First thing is the previous city code didn't make it clear that there's a clear free speech issue, where if you do something that's artistic or political or scientific. So we made sure that this code makes that very clear, that you have a free speech right that this obscenity code doesn't apply to. That's the first thing. The second thing was the previous code had restrictions on, for lack of a better word, people's sex toys. That was unenforceable. It made no sense to me, and it means an intrusion into people's personal lives. So we struck that, got rid of it. And then the third kind of piece was to sort of clarify what is obscenity. And so this has some language in that specifically around both things that it directly appeals, this is the legal language, appeals to the purity and interest in sex. So basically things that I think common people would define as being purely sexual. And then it defines a state of nudity, right? And to make that, looking at that, just being explicit, right? We were thinking about how do you do this? Right? How do you define state of nudity? And I think we all agree genitals are covered. But we were thinking about how do you do so in a way that's inclusive of the trans community, right? And that is, has some gender equity. And so that took out the language around breasts. So it only covers the language below. But the obscenity law is still there, right? So anything that is considered obscene is covered under the code. And then the other thing I got some questions about was strip clubs and things like that. And it's important to remember that there's a state law that governs a lot of this. So my understanding, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the state law says within 1,000 feet of, I believe, a school stop, religious institution, there are a few others, there can't be basically an establishment that, or there's sort of a primary sexual purpose to that establishment.
I believe sexually oriented business.
Business is the phrase.
Legal phrase.
Right. And my understanding.
And they can't sell alcohol.
Sorry?
And
You can't sell alcohol. And my understanding is that just given the geography of Jersey City, that I don't have the exact map in front of me, but 80%, maybe 85% of the city is, even more than that, is covered under that 1,000-foot.
That's correct.
Yeah, the drug zone in Jersey City, you have to sell drugs in the middle of Holy Name Cemetery to be legal.
Right. So it's the same standard as the 1,000 feet. So from my perspective, why I thought this ends up being the right thing to do is it clarifies the old law, it extends free speech protections, it improves people's privacy protections, and then it establishes a standard that is respective of all the kind of diverse communities in the city. So that's my kind of overview of it. But obviously I'm sure there are questions and thoughts and things like that. So.
Any questions, comments?
Yes, can I
thoughts?
let me ask you that, over here is a contemporary community standard. Can you give some definition of contemporary community standard? What that means?
The United States Supreme Court couldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that, yeah.
Well, it's really, that's exactly it. The United States Supreme Court couldn't come up with a standard because there actually is a famous line of a Supreme Court justice whose name is escaping me who said, I don't know obscenity, or I can't define obscenity, but I know it when I see it. Okay, so for me to stand here and tell you exactly what the left and right contours of a community standard are is impossible. And I think we'd also all agree that in the last 10 years, or last 20 years, community standards have been evolving very quickly, particularly in this area. The community standard of Jersey City is not going to be the same standard as Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the community standard of today is probably not the community standard of 5 years ago. So what this ordinance does is that the best it can define obscenity within the contours of the law to the best of our ability at the moment, but also provide, as Councilman Solomon said, protections for cultural, artistic, or political speech in the context of what may otherwise be considered obscene.
I think the important part of that paragraph, as I read it, is that person who has those, applying those standards concludes that they lacks any serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value and appeals only to the prurient interest in sex. I said it.
Standard can be different. In the Jersey City wise, based on section can be different. You know what I'm saying? Heights, Greenville, any other part can be different. So now, my concern is that that's my concern actually. You know what I'm saying? Because when you say contemporary community standard, can be big difference by the word in Jersey City. So maybe the way Councilman James Solomon mentioned that certain downtown very acceptable, But if things happen, heights can be issue, you know what I'm saying? So especially, I don't know, how can I say that, you know, those kind of things.
While I appreciate your concern, I don't think it's feasible to have an ordinance that will define what is obscenity in one section of Jersey City and not obscenity in another section of Jersey City. All of your concerns are valid, and like I mentioned, at Tulsa, Oklahoma versus Jersey City, different parts of Jersey, different generations. But that's exactly why we're not going to be able to say, these 20 behaviors are not okay in this ordinance, and then 5, because that's not what the Supreme Court standard is, that's not what the case law standard is, and really what our standard is the community standard is standard.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Good job, Jim.
What is the enforcement mechanism? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was asking what's the penalty for violating?
I think $500. It's the same, it's the general penalty for violating.
It's the general ordinance violation. I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly what it is. I can provide that for you, but it's no different than I think it had been under the previous iteration of the ordinance. That's right, yeah.
But I learned this from going through this, what apparently is that, you know, in theory, obviously an officer, our police officer can enforce this standard. But then also, any citizen can file a complaint in the Superior Court alleging that the municipal code has been violated, and then the court would, hear it and go through a process.
Well, actually, an ordinance violation would go to the municipal court, and the judge, as sitting alone as a decider of fact in the municipal court, would be the one to determine whether the community standard was violated.
So there's no way you can zone it for No. Zone it for what? For what?
Residential, can you zone it?
I don't think so. I can certainly look into it, but I think you're getting into a very difficult area when you're trying to define within a relatively small geographic area and a relatively small community to say that if I'm on this side of this line, what I'm doing is obscenity, and on the other side it's not. In particular, you're talking about things of political, cultural, artistic merit. Those things are really considered sacrosanct by the courts because they want to make sure they don't infringe upon people's First Amendment speech. Now, obviously, all those other things we were talking about, for example, different shows, different venues wouldn't necessarily be found in a residential community that may be found at a venue downtown. We certainly recognize that, but getting into what is obscenity in one place versus another place in the city I'm not sure it's going to be a feasible way to go about it.
Let me ask you this one. Over here, the contemporary community standard as an average person within the community. So Jersey City has a lot of different communities, you know what I'm saying? Because the word has a community, the Arab community is major, Indian community is also major. Those communities maybe has some issue, you know what I'm saying? So now, and then they say that average person within the average person, how are you going to decide which one is the average? I mean, you got to build some kind of mechanism, say, this is what you have, something has to be.
Ultimately, the ordinance was found to be violated and went before the municipal judge. The municipal judge, hearing the facts of the case, he or she will be the one to determine whether the ordinance was violated.
The Jersey City Police Department has an ABC bureau, and when this starts happening, they'll walk in undercover, and if anything violative.
So, would that be for the violation of the ABC? One thing to stress, this ordinance is related to the Jersey City Municipal Ordinance. It does not have any effect on the ABC rules of the state of New Jersey.
So my question is that you judge this, but judge is not the average person in my community. You understand? So
the judge wouldn't apply the standard though, based on what.
So he doesn't know what the average person in my community is looking for. So somewhere build up some formula to something we can understand.
I think the challenge, I don't disagree, Michael, because that's a sensible comment. I think the challenge is this is kind of the way the Supreme Court has laid out. This is how you deal with obscenity laws, because they're like, we can't figure it out, so.
But we cannot figure it out, but we can put some restriction, you know what I'm saying?
Well, what would you like, what are you saying, you're saying restrictions, what restrictions would you like to see?
See, there's question, so I need some time to digest.
Okay.
So this is a joke they did that. They one of the code that adult film movie theater located in one of the Bronx. So neighbor against it, they should be closed down at the adult movie theater. So when they have a public meeting, when you take a vote, the people say no more than yes. You know what I'm talking about. So I don't know which, so I need some time to digest. And somebody have to be more educated. Like last time, I don't know what that means. That
at least till
for last show, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe they have some from the city council, so we don't understand what it is.
Tell them to send them a picture, a presentation.
Yes. With the fireworks, Christine's.
So is there a way to like limit it to only commercial districts or like our districts, main thoroughfare or something like that? So that it doesn't necessarily travel into quote-unquote residential?
Because that's what we asked about the zoning. The zoning should be able
Like
to
I
do
said,
that.
I've never seen an obscenity ordinance in a municipality go from this zone has one standard, this zone has the other standard. The other thing you're going to want to think about is what exactly you're trying to limit within whatever zone you're talking about. What is the behavior or the conduct you're trying to say that I want to allow in this zone and I don't want to allow in this zone?
Well, not necessarily like Councilman Young saying for wards, but to keep it, I guess, out of more residential areas.
Right.
So like, a commercial district or a main thoroughfare, like you expect different businesses to be there.
This is not expanding, like,
The same
access for the city to residential neighborhoods. It's simply prohibiting obscenity, right?
Yeah, it's a question that, like, if we're talking about limiting businesses, the businesses are already limited by the state statute in at least, again, 80 to 90% of the city, and we can get the full map out because you can't be within 1,000 feet of.
Right.
This is more, I guess, I think it's more around conduct, sort of.
This is
clearly
non-commercial.
Right,
Right,
performance,
so
performance.
Commercial activities
yeah.
is as, Nick's
Yeah.
Drive, and
Yeah.
there's separate regulations, but this is non-commercial. And it covers everything, but specifically ABC has a different category of rules and regulations. It's not intended to apply to that. This is intended to apply to anybody, commercial or non-commercial. As we know, ABC has separate, even more stringent but because it's First Amendment issues, we have to make it apply to everybody. We can't say it only applies to you and not to you. The Supreme Court's very strict on that.
Page 2 at the top, examples of obscenity include but are not limited to the public display of any material, any film, or live performance which depicts, and explain 1 and 2. Explain them.
What was reading from? I think he's trolling us. I'm sorry, page 2?
Page 2. Second paragraph. Example of there's a 1 and a 2.
Yeah.
Reproduction of discretion, intimated sexual act. We gotta tell that the public, we talk about the R19 or R21.
What's that?
This is obscenity anywhere.
Public broadcasting, so.
I know.
This is R19, now if age under 19, please close eyes and close ears and move to the different, then we can discuss it. Because
we can't beep it out.
But these are the definitions the court has used to define what is appropriately classified as obscenity. However, the exceptions do include for political, literary, cultural events of value. Okay, so in other words, that the only interest is not the prurient interest. But there are other, for example, there is nudity, the statue of David. Most people would consider to have artistic value, even though it's a naked statue of a man. However, a naked man in a different circumstance, a community may not find that to have the same artistic value.
we're not gonna have parades like New Orleans then. How does that work if we have a parade like New Orleans, you know, where does that go into effect there? Nudity
Like under the current standards with a parade, as he's suggesting, would that be an offense? I don't know. I don't know what the current standards are, to be frank with you.
Because Danny asked a good point. I think he asked a very good point.
The question is, at the local level, we're defining what obscene is. Is there something at the state level that like defines things around? Because it's basically an issue of nudity from the top up in this situation, right? So, is there anything like if we're having a parade throughout the city that is going to prohibit flashing?
So now the issue is that
Or just bare breasts throughout the entirety of the parade?
that's just one case. Second case is
there
that
anything?
City of Jersey, Lieutenant Gallery.
Michael,
Yes.
answer the question.
Oh, no, we added to. We added to.
He didn't answer my question.
Right.
Okay, Nick's got the floor.
All right. The definition of the state of nudity includes the complete exposure of the anus or genitals or pubic area. It does not consider anything in the breast area for either men or women.
National Geographic.
Yes, because it doesn't
So it's
consider.
worth, on that specific point, I mean, I think it's worth, when we were thinking about it, right, is we looked at other cities, right, and so this has been the law basically in New York City since 1992. It's been the law in Washington DC for, I don't know how long, but over a decade. It's the law in Columbus, Ohio, it's the law in Santa Fe, New Mexico, it's the law in about Portland, Oregon. So there are any number of cities that have basically the same definition of the state of nudity, and I think we would most argue that I've spent time in those cities and they function the same way we do here. So, you know, I think this is a clearer definition that's more equitable for many different communities, and I don't think we'll see drastic change, but I mean, it is, so, you know, Nick answered the question, right, if that, you know, that is not considered a state of nudity under the obscenity law.
So
I think everyone has a clear visualization of what this is.
Yes.
So let's just,
We have a visitor gallery, the artists come out, they display their work. 1994 or 5, one of the artists painting goes, you know, I'm not going to say that things has caused a problem because it's a public building with those things as issue, so the artists have to remove their painting. So now, once we pass this one, some artists come out the painting, very stranger, I'm not going to say that, there's something, whatever we hear, it's there, it's a pain in the world, and the hang up, we cannot stop anymore, right? Because if this rule apply to the outside of City Hall, then same token, this rule have to apply inside the City Hall too.
Well, not, you're describing a mural.
And especially in the dark. That's
Okay. If there was a mural painted, the person would have to have the right to paint the mural in that location. I don't have the right to go outside and paint a mural wherever I want. So that'd be designated by the city as a place that this person is allowed to paint a mural, and then in a public space, and then it comes down to what that mural is going to be. Usually, the city has an idea before a mural is contracted what it's going to look like.
if it's private.
It's a private one. We use the art, we do the gallery inside as a gallery. So artists can paint their items, what they belong to over here, to painting and the hang on the wall. How are we going to stop them then? We cannot stop them.
I'm trying to say, what exactly are you trying to, yes, if there's an art exhibit, that hasn't changed in the ordinance, though. I think I want to keep that clear. There was an exception for artistic and cultural things of merit that may otherwise be considered obscene in the previous iteration of the ordinance. It is made more specific in this ordinance. Okay?
Sure. Under this ordinance, can, let's say, a woman walk down the street like downtown topless, and if she were to get pulled over, will she be charged with indecent exposure?
Well, the state of nudity definitions under this ordinance does not include revealing it by men or women, the breast area.
It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
So one thing is there is two things. One is this doesn't change the criminal code of conduct around behavior, right? So there's a lot of conduct that is criminal and has nothing to do with this. But again, I think the fair question, the point I'm going to come back to is, this is the law in New York City. It's been since 1992. In the last 25 years, right, New York has gotten to be a safer place, a cleaner place. It's less seedy in the last 25 years. It's the law in Washington, D.C. I've been to Washington 1,000 times, right? Like, the point I'm making is cities that have this law written in around toplessness, you walk in them and they operate functionally the same way as Jersey City does. And it's, what I want to go back to is to put this, to try to create a definition that's trans-inclusive of breasts. It's extraordinarily difficult. I'm not sure it's even possible. And we, pride ourselves on being a city that's LGBTQ, leader in that area. And, again, I would challenge somebody to come up with a definition that is inclusive of the trans community that does what you are hoping to do. Not hoping, but as you're asking about. So that was the challenge.
So, yeah, go ahead. Just to be clear, when you say inclusive of the trans community, you mean that there may be women who identify as male that would like to not.
I mean, there's people who are transitioning. It's again, it's creating a definition, right? So someone who might have identify as male, have what other people identify as more female breast. How do you define that? How do you put that into code? And that's why I think we're better off as a government taking our hands away and saying, let's stay towards equity, let's stay towards gender equality and inclusiveness. That's my argument on this.
I gotta ask my wife first. I'm really.
But let me ask you something. But if they're close to a school or a church or something, if they walk like that, they can be arrested, correct?
No. Try to limit this to a ward or to a district.
I'd say we leave it alone. Why are we coming to New York City?
School, there are other things as well. It's basically the same rules that operate for 1,000 foot with 1,000 foot for purposes of dealing drugs. And if you look at the map, there's very few places. That is for a commercial or business. It's not for individuals walking in the street.
Let me try to.
I'm sorry, Councilman Rivera, did you have something?
My concern is that doesn't apply to free exposure. I'm concerned about that, so if we're walking down the street, exposed, if let's say it's 1,000 feet by a school and there's kids that walk more than 1,000 feet to go to that school and there's a business in that area,
There won't be any businesses.
Or there be an event.
Business within 1,000 feet of a school, which basically includes almost all of Jersey City, with the exception of the area out on 440. We're not talking about commercial businesses today. We're talking about really personal conduct.
But you're saying that we can't open businesses on 440?
No,
you just said it.
Only mention you potentially could. Because it would not. That's really the only area in Jersey City that is not within 1,000 feet of a church or school or some other.
So are there, options to open up a strip club or?
You could.
Or if
you could.
There's zoning.
There's zoning issues and there's also related to that, but that's not what we're talking about here.
There's some potential to some of the examples that were brought up. There's still state lewdness code. So why don't we clarify that to get some people a little bit more clarity on what the state lewdness code, because that we can't change that. But just on the thing is, so this doesn't change anything with the state alcohol regulation. So just saying you can't have a quote-unquote strip club that serves alcohol. That's not allowed under state laws. And it doesn't change our zoning codes for any other areas. And it doesn't change what's defined as obscenity here. So if you're opening a business that had obscene conduct as defined in the ordinance, then that's still not allowed too. Does that make sense? There's layers here.
Clubs are bathing suits, right? They're not complete nude. But is there a potential to be able to open one of those here in the city? Because I know in Jersey City
This would change that. If you were able, I don't think so. This ordinance would affect that
So you
ability.
still couldn't open.
One way or the other.
There's a question for Councilman Robinson about clubs and women and bathing suits and.
Sure, wait, I'm sorry.
No, as long as they don't serve alcohol, you're saying it's the potential to open up clubs where they can dance.
There are other zoning issues in addition to that, so it's not as simple as just being, well, the ordinance, and therefore it's allowed. But the ordinance does not change the definition of obscenity. Okay, it does change the definition of the state of nudity. That's the one piece that has changed.
We have to need a time to study.
Okay, I have a very specific question. So what's the enforcement mechanism here? So if somebody identifies something as obscene, says they want, or they could consider it by the standards, they think that fits the definition, what's their recourse?
The max fine is $2,000.
Who do they report it to, and like how does it get enforced?
Either the police or any citizen on any issue has a right to go to the Jersey Municipal Court and fill out a citizen's complaint, and it will be heard by the municipal judge.
I just want to clarify so we don't have this repeat of what happened with the FM and whatnot, right? So just, do we need to clarify it, I guess, or is it understood as it's written? How to enforce or report an obscenity complaint?
Well, anyone can always report a violation of any of the Jersey ordinances with the police, or they can go on their own, that person can go on their own and report it at the Jersey City Municipal Court and fill out a citizen's complaint. It's on a form saying what was violated. They fill it out and it gets processed. They can certainly do that as well.
Nick, we're going to make it obliged for Jersey City, file one complaint at one.
I just have a quick question, getting back to
Councilperson Marin.
the differentiation between this and what is considered lewdness at the state level. And I understand what that is, but if we could get that to the rest of the council people, I think that would also go a long way in helping us understand what this is.
The ABC actually puts out a handbook which includes their requirements in terms of state.
Oh no, I've read it for the.
I'll be happy to forward that to the remainder of the council.
You still haven't explained to me, I asked about before, 1 and 2. What's allowed?
It's not allowed. 1 and 2 on the top of page 2. So there are examples of what's not allowed. That is obscenity. However, there are I'm sorry? It's obscenity anywhere, unless there is an exception, as we described, for artistic or cultural things of artistic or cultural merit.
For artistical purposes, they can do what the hell they want.
But that's basically been the rule, that was the rule in the previous ordinance. It was just poorly written and it was unclear. And that's the Supreme Court standard that they've set for all of this stuff. Just to answer the Councilman's questions earlier, we'll confirm, but I believe JC Municipal Code, Chapter 157 prevents entertainment licenses for obscene live entertainment, and all live entertainment has to be licensed. So the code already covers live entertainment.
Listen, I'm just a little confused. Listen, I'm not a law guy, I'm a science guy, but my concern was, I was kind of like on board with this, because the concerns that we had with FM. But like one of the questions that I asked, if somebody wanted to walk down the street topless, like I have like granddaughters, like to me that would kind of like bother me a little bit. And then what would happen? I mean, and then would the police department be able to enforce something like this? I mean, law. So that the answer is no, that they can walk around topless if we pass this ordinance. Correct?
That's consistent with the change in definition of the state of nudity in this ordinance.
Okay. I'm not sure if I should ask one more, but I won't.
I have a lot of jokes I have to say.
Okay. Okay. If there are no other comments, folks. Hold on, folks. Councilman Boggiano?
To the public, to the people of Jersey City, and get back opinions and various things. You have a large Muslim population here that's not going to go for this. You have a large Coptic population that's not going to go for this, and a large Christian population that's not going to go for this. And
So we talk average.
I respect that they're legitimate difference of opinion, but you know, we have New York City literally across the river. All those communities are much bigger in New York, and no one walks into New York and it feels like, you know, I feel very safe having my daughter in New York City walking around the street, right? I don't feel like she's gonna, you know, her morals are compromised. That's the argument I'm gonna make to you is look across the river and
born and raised in New York City.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Folks, are we ready to move on? Okay. Okay, item 3D.
Creating two titles, Supervising Parking Enforcement Officer and Director of Inspections. 3E is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 3, Department of Health and Human Services,
Withdrawn.
establishing.
It's withdrawn. So council members, I sent you all an email.
E is withdrawn.
On the municipal ID. So after further discussion, just, there were some concerns about kind of two things. For one, the Office of Immigrant Affairs, and it's kind of undermanned and understaffed right now and lacking sort of leadership there. And so to kind of roll this out effectively, like we want to have stronger staffing there. And so I spoke to the mayor directly about this, and he has agreed that to do a search for a director to head that office. So that's the first thing. And so certainly there was, and then the second thing was the idea that we wanted to make sure that the ID could be as impactful for those who receive it. So for example, there had been kind of talk about things like being able to have it double as a library card, or being able to use it for senior discounts or go to recreation programs and so forth, irregardless of who you are and what your background is and so forth. And so that stuff is not necessarily in place at this point, and the thought was like, let's get some of this, let's pass it and then kind of roll it out. But in the absence of, again, that leadership there to like follow through on things and make sure that it gets taken care of, that it would probably just be me following through on it. And so we decided that let's hold off on that for a minute and fill that position, but also I'm going to start to, I've reached out to the library already and said, you know, what do we need to do to kind of merge our library card with municipal ID, you know, city employees and their municipal IDs, their city employees with municipal ID, and trying to have multiple uses and benefits for having a municipal ID in that regard. So I beg your patience and ask that I've withdrawn it, and it'll be coming back in the near future.
Director, I guess, Division Director for Immigrant Affairs. Do you guys have a timeline yet? Like, how soon do you plan to start that process?
Staff and HR and get a job posted out there soon enough. So it'll be an open search, and emphasize to them that you know, the idea of posting a position with the idea that whoever responds to that they have a vision for kind of the Office of Immigrant Affairs and the Immigrant Affairs Commission, and that whoever's responding to that job posting and that announcement, that they be able to articulate that and share that, so that we have a clear sense of how kind of that office will go in the future.
Should we consider, and I'm a little bit unclear on this power of ours, but requesting a report? So, because I think the concern, and I know you're complete commitment to this, but, this was discussed about a year ago, and then it kind of fell off the radar, and now it's a year later. And certainly we moved immigrant affairs, so we're at least on track, but request an implementation report to have the mayor deliver to us in 3 months or something, or 2 months.
Correct.
And say, and pass that as the first step to say, what is so we give them a timeline, so it doesn't, we're not here in a year from now.
On the municipal ID itself.
Right, say, the report that we're requesting from the mayor would be, an implementation or timeline. And
Sure, we can
plan.
include that as part of the ordinance, is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is if we're gonna, I don't know how
That
long
could
the
be-
ordinance is
yeah.
gonna be delayed, so I'm saying, can we consider that in lieu of the ordinance? So instead of saying the ordinance, say we want to report on, what is this gonna look like, what's the implementation plan? I know people are working on it, but we just, part of our job is to push and make sure that they, that this is a top priority and it's not
Well,
3 months.
there's a lot of folks working on it, but there's,
Nobody focusing on it.
yeah, there's no one like.
Right, so maybe a report would help somebody.
Well, I
But
think
you
the
need a
hiring of
person,
somebody
the
is
hiring
the
with,
thing is,
see, there's nobody really responsible for it, I
Yeah.
think that's the problem.
Put
You have
someone in
people
charge
pulling
there.
people to do something, but this has been over a year, we should
I know, but we haven't had leadership in like a
Right,
year.
and
It's
that's,
like,
and that's true.
that's been the challenge.
So we don't know the timeline in which he wants to hire.
No, I mean, we didn't specifically say when, but it's top of mind and it's a top priority, so to get someone hired immediately.
Changes because
Yeah, we can still amend it and update it. And so with regard to reporting, one of the things that we talked about was the idea that getting some reports from other cities and kind of see where folks are recently with municipal ID programs and how it's running in other cities at this point, and to be able to kind of learn from that as well and make sure that we're implementing all of the kind of best practices around that to make sure that as we roll ours out that we're doing a good job. So we've got models like Union City, Elizabeth, Newark, Patterson, New York City, obviously, and some of them.
Roselle.
Was that Roselle?
Just for example, Newark did 19,000. So
Right.
we're looking at volume, we're looking at the municipalities size to size and the like.
Yeah.
And with new council people and new co-sponsors for this, there's a serious.
But this was no priority, and that's, I see
Yeah.
James' point, if this is not the priority, we'll miss it up a year again. So we really need to say this is a priority. That's why North
that's
has
the
the numbers it
intention there,
has,
is
because
to
it
like-
prioritized, this is important,
To strengthen that office up and make sure that somebody has it as a priority. So my concern ultimately was as we had introduced it, and then as it would be rolling out, the communities that would ultimately apply for this, various communities of different backgrounds, that if they were in the shadows and their experience was like really negative as a result, that word would spread very fast, right? That maybe they weren't treated respectfully, or they weren't, it wasn't timely turned around and so forth. And so if that was the case, I think that we'd be doing a disservice, and then people would quickly not want to come to Jersey City. Jersey City residents would not want to get their municipal ID. And so we want to be able to change that. Yes.
If you see that the page 4, 3-105.7.
Page 4.
Yeah, page 4. 105.7. If anybody read that paragraph, then they're going to simply say this is the one. You want me to have a baby? Yes, I'm going to have a baby, but I'm not going to be responsible for my baby. So in other words, the city of Jersey issue city municipal ID card, but they clearly say that we're not going to guarantee warranty the whatever information in the card, we're not guaranteeing warranty. So it's like you want the baby, fine. I'm going to have a baby for you, but as a parent, I have no responsibility of the baby. Same things what they say. I mean, that is the problem. If anybody read this paragraph, they're going to scratch their head.
How would you interpret that? I don't interpret it the way you're saying.
No, city just going to make issue. So please, Nick, read at the page 4, 105.7.
I mean, we're not doing criminal background checks and things like that. That's how I'm kind of
Yes.
We're not warranting
You
them.
want city ID card? Yes, we're gonna give the city ID card based on you provide the information. But City of Jersey have no responsible, no guarantee warranty that information in the card.
This is a provision that we put to protect the city from lawsuits, from anybody, from a business that, because we can't, I mean, if somebody presents us false information and we do all of our checks to the best of our best ability and in good faith, but unknowingly they present us false information, we don't want to be held liable for that. So we're protecting the city from lawsuits.
So that's why I asked you last time, I asked you this one. We don't want the city cannot responsible that they provided with a lot of fake documents that they created today. We don't want the city to be responsible for that information they provide because City of Jersey has no mechanism to verify that information. That's why I asked them putting this one. So now once you put this one, in other words, the city will not guarantee warranty card information in the car, and we tell them other people to accept it as ID. I mean,
That's not what this is saying.
That's not what this is saying.
No.
You want to give it a shot and explain it to them?
We do the best we can to verify the identity. There's a list of things that we're gonna look at, right? Okay, but we can only do the best that we can. We're not, so that's why we have the immunity provision in there, because it's a fallback. We might get bad apples that present to us fraudulent information. However, we don't want to be sued. That's why we put that in there.
yes, so that's why last time, when you put this one, I insist to put this one.
Yeah, so we did, right?
Yeah, we did.
So it's in now, right?
Once we print this one, as I said, very simply explain to that, you want me to have a baby, say, I'm going to have a baby, but I'm not going to be responsible for the baby. As a parents, it just...
Losing a baby now.
So I'm we produce ID card, something we cannot even back up.
Well, the thing is, you're asking for to make sure the city is protected for liability, and if someone obtains this fraudulently, and then on the flip side, you're saying, well, now I don't want that. So
in other words, that's what I'm saying. That in other words, we gotta find the council just mentioned that we gotta find the other way. There were library card, some other like a senior card the city of Jersey issue. Somehow we have to cooperate something less responsible.
So in other words, you say something less responsible?
Yes. In other words, we gotta have to use library card as a we're gonna come up with some idea because to me
this is being withdrawn, so we can talk about this offline. Okay.
People, like everybody going in and taking a look at the books that these people check out. So I mean, you really have to be thoughtful about how it's going to be set up and what it's going to be tied to. And that's
I have no answer. I'd like to have their ID, but how are we going to protect City of Jersey? And in the meantime, how are we going to make the city ID make worse something? That's why I'm thinking, we gotta. Are we withdrawing this?
It's being withdrawn. Yes.
Yes.
I tried to help.
Okay, we will talk offline on this, Councilperson.
Because the goal is to then later reintroduce this once we are able to sustain it. If we have any suggestions or possible amendments, should we send those to you now or wait until we bring it back?
No, send them all now.
Send them now, yeah. And make sure, if you're sending it to me, copy Marlene on that, please.
Top priority, whatever happened to full-time aides? Top priority, 4 years. You brought the word up, top priority.
Yes. I don't know what the reference is, but yeah. All right. Actually, before we continue with the rest of the agenda, I just wanted to raise another. I'm calling for a special meeting of the City Council. And Robert, I need to work out a date and work out with the rest of you. So in a recent meeting with Jersey City Together, there were some initiatives to address some of the housing crisis and some of the rent control issues and enforcement issues around it. And so the administration is introducing 2 ordinances. It couldn't be prepared for this meeting in time. One is a foreclosure registry, and the other one increases the fines and other fees associated with landlord registrations. And so we can get a better handle on that and provide a source of revenue that will also be able to help address our enforcement and monitoring needs around rent control and so forth.
If you have any hope of adopting these ordinances on
June
13th,
is the intention.
talking about a Friday special meeting. Tuesday would be too late. I would never be able to get them into the newspaper in enough time. At least 10 days must elapse between the introduction
Friday
of...
before Tuesday would be okay, but Tuesday would not be okay?
So,
That doesn't make sense to me.
We need to do it by June 3rd to make the 13th meeting, right?
That's as soon as, I have to advertise. 7 days, and I have a lead time
Because,
with the
so
newspaper.
I mean, look, I'm going to call for the special meeting. You can show up or not show up, that's fine with me, but I'll say, if you listen to the folks who are in these groups, they would tell you we couldn't waste another day, and I would agree with them. We can't waste another day with inadequate enforcement and send a message to slum landlords and all of these corporations out there that are pushing people out of affordable units, rent-controlled units in Jersey City. And so by doing this, we actually will symbolically in some way also send a message to folks and let them know that in Jersey City, this is an unacceptable behavior.
2 years.
What's that?
We've been complaining about that for the last 2 years, and especially down in one ward. Never mind.
Taking action on it now, so. Okay. So Friday, June 1st is a possibility, or?
Friday, June 1st would be...
At least 12 days before June 13th, which would be second reading.
Right.
I will have Margaret reach out to the rest of the council and identify dates.
I'd have to have the ordinances in hand and up to the Jersey Journal and have a kill switch attached to them, which may cost us some money. That's the only way we could do it.
Okay.
Getting it properly advertised the week before the meeting.
Okay, so we'll do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's my solution. I came up with it.
All right, so the June 1st, can we have a morning meeting? Can it be like 10 a.m. meeting? Like we're all in the same room, can we get a schedule? It's Friday.
This Friday?
No, it's next Friday.
Why don't you connect with everyone and just see, this is just for those items. There'll be an introduction. We'll get the ordinances together and get it out to you in advance. There won't be a caucus in advance of the first reading, but we'll have a full conversation about it at the caucus on
It's
June.
just to introduce.
Yeah. So whatever date we can find before June 1st or earlier, whatever works there. Okay? Thank you. From the top.
We did all the first reading ordinances.
Okay?
Second reading ordinances,
Oh, Nick, just we talked about the 22 waivers, 3F was it? The first one, 3F?
I'm sorry, which one are you on?
Yes, 3F.
3F?
Yeah, waiver 20 days, just,
Yes, you mentioned it.
Yeah, thank you.
can we go to resolutions?
That'll be on the
please?
next agenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
We only have 6 people on our speakers list. I expect that there'll be a lot of hard-to-pronounce names added to it. Bless you. Resolutions. A resolution authorizing an emergency temporary appropriation. B is a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing the circulation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement in connection with the sale of the city's bond anticipation notes, Series 2018B, Bond Anticipation Notes, Series 2018C, and Special Emergency Notes, Series 2018D, and approving a continuing disclosure certificate with respect to said notes of the city and authorizing and/or ratifying other actions in connection therewith. 3C, we're introducing and approving the 2019 budget of the Journal Square Special Improvement. I'm going to advertise the budget. The tax assessor will promulgate an assessment roll. 4D, authorizing the execution of an agreement between the City of Jersey City and an International Union of Operating Engineers. Those are the guys that keep us warm in the winter, the boiler operators. E is waiving the 20 days on the R2 zone and to create a zone R2D. F and G.
RNA, actually, RNA, that Riverview Neighbor Association, thank you to Council President and Law Department.
Sure. F and G, done earlier. H, authorizes the BA to execute a discharge of mortgage at 217 Whiten Street. I, authorizes the execution of a mortgage subordination agreement affecting the property at 218 Whiten Street. J is a resolution authorizing the sale of 286 Martin Luther King Drive by RBI Improvements, Inc. to 202 Hull Street LLC, discharging the city's existing mortgage against the property and authorizing 202 Hull Street to assume the city's new mortgage against the property. K, a resolution recognizing the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Just briefly, I was going to say this is the students that did the March for Our Lives. So they're also going to do another rally, I think starting at 4:30 at City Hall before, after the Santa Fe shooting, and then we'll defer to them, correct?
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, so just want to make sure that's 4:30 if you want to be there on Wednesday.
L, a resolution designating, well, Mr. Luckritz already did his little promo, EMS week. M, resolution commemorating the life of Ruby Perry King. N, a resolution recognizing Private Irving P. Peoples as 2018 Hudson County Veterans Award Luncheon honoree. O is extending a license agreement with the City of Jersey City for the use of 51 Crescent Avenue. This has been going on for 25 years. P, a license agreement for 166 Danforth Avenue. Q, authorizing the city to execute a license agreement with the New Jersey Schools Development Authority for the use of parking at 70 Iggy Avenue. R is extending a license agreement with the Jersey City Public Schools for the use of 93 Grand Street. S is a resolution extending a license agreement with the public schools for 198 Plainfield Avenue. T is authorizing a license agreement with WSP to enter into city-owned property at 575 Route 440. U we did earlier. V is accepting a grant award for recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities. W, authorizing the city to apply for funds for bulletproof vests, body armor for our Jersey City Police Department. X, authorizing the closure of streets, Dwight Street from Van Cleef to Ocean beginning 10 a.m. and ending 9 p.m. Sunday the 26th of May for the purpose of the memorial service and community event for Sally Days. Y is authorizing the closing of Municipal Street Exchange Place for the Riverview Jazz Festival on June 1. Z is closure of Grove Street from Montgomery Street to Mercer, Mercer Street from Marin to Grove, and Montgomery Street from Marin Boulevard to Grove Street, beginning 8 a.m. and ending 11:30 a.m. for the purpose of the Bike Jersey City Ward Tour. Z1 is a resolution authorizing, got to be the leasing, right?
No, closing.
Closing. It says losing on mine, I got to correct that. The closing of a municipal street, Montgomery Street westbound, from Hudson Street to Green Street on January 6th for the Anheuser-Busch office grand opening. You want to meet the Clydesdales and get some good fertilizer? Come on down. Z2, resolution rejecting all proposals received by the City of Jersey City on December 7th.
Can I comment on Z2?
Yeah.
So we might actually pull this. We approved a contract a while ago. I was here, we spoke about it a bunch. And then the vendor who won the contract decided they weren't happy with the contract, which was weird. So we've been going back and forth, and we said, okay, look, we'll just throw out the RFP and we'll just start over again. If we're going to start over again, we're going to change the terms a little bit and make it hopefully so more people can respond. But they've suggested to us that they're now willing to accept the terms of the contract that they proposed, and then we all voted on and approved.
So in other words, the city writing a good contract.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have full confirmation by the council meeting on Wednesday if they are okay to proceed with the existing contract. If so, I'll withdraw this. We will withdraw this. Currently, it's not withdrawn, yeah. So let's wait until I have confirmation on Wednesday.
You said that the kiosks were going to be free, right? Or-
Yes,
Okay.
so free for us, we get 24% of the ad revenue, and we have a maximum of 50 of them that we'd put all over the city. If we were going to go back to an RFP, we would change the term of the contract, make it a little longer, and then add a higher maximum, just to leave it open. But we don't need to. I mean, it'll be fine the way it is, and so yeah. But it's a really good term for us. It's free, we make money, and everyone wins.
Okay, go all the way to Z6. Ratifying contract with Royal Printing Service for printing official election machine and sample ballots for the primary election to be held on June 5th. Z7, Z8, we've done. Z9 is authorizing the city to enter into a cooperation agreement with the JCRA, allowing the use and access to city-owned property at 80 Bay Street within the Powerhouse Arts District redevelopment area. Z10, a resolution ratifying contract to Microsystems Inc. to provide support for the tax assessor's Mod 4 system. Z11 we did. Z12 is authorizing the award of contract to First Priority Emergency Vehicles for the purchase and delivery of an emergency response vehicle through the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire. Z13 we did. Z14 is an award of contract to Always Bright Clean Spotless Corp. for the maintenance and services and chemicals for Pershing Field, Livonia and Lafayette pools. Z15, ratifying the award of contract to Netchert, Deneen, and Hillman in the matter of Police Officer Morton Otundo, to represent Police Officer Morton Otundo in the matter of Jonathan Sanders v. the City of Jersey City. Z16, ratifying the award of a professional services agreement with the law firm Murphy Orlando LLC to represent Mayor Stephen Fulop in the matter of Fernandez v. the City of Jersey City. Z17 is ratifying the award of a professional services contract with the law firm Brock Eichler to represent Kip Smith, Sheila Lane, and Gerardo Coppola in the matter of Terry Reynolds and Lorraine Oliver via the City of Jersey City. Z18 has been withdrawn. 19, 20, and 21 have been spoken about. Z22 is a resolution commemorating Patrick Mangini and creating a memorial garden in his memory. And we're going to have a resolution authorizing a closed session. Who said that song? Danny is a good singer. And Joyce, you're a good backup singer.
Right. Yeah. Do me a favor. Yeah. Would you contact with the EDC? I like to have a meeting with EDC. Urgent meeting, 11 o'clock tomorrow. Because I have to go somewhere.
And I don't think Rosemary's out of
Yun, Solomon, Robinson, Rivera, Waterman, Lavaro.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim.
Out.
Hey, Jim.
Howdy.
James Solomon. Lean forward.